Welcome to Fan4Racing Radio. I'm Fan4Racing Sharon, and joining me tonight are Chris Crichton and Jay Huseman. And we've got some topics to discuss here tonight. And we'll start with our usual first topic, which is how was the racing at Martinsville for the NASCAR Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series, all elimination races in preparation for the Championship 4 at Phoenix. So, Chris, let's start with you.
Yeah, that's great. We had a really busy weekend this weekend, so I wasn't able to watch a lot of the scheduled races. I did catch up on the Xfinity race. Unfortunately, the truck race, my DVR didn't catch it or something. I don't know what's been. This is like the third week. I noticed with Talladega, it didn't record it, and then so I was like, well, maybe it was a network issue, but or a blackout issue. But unfortunately, something must have been wrong with my DVR. I may have somehow canceled it or whatever. So I was kind of lost on that one. I thought the Xfinity race was pretty action packed. It seemed like there was a lot of side by side racing, a lot of pushing and shoving. It was a good good race. I didn't see anything that outside of the Jeb Burton issue. That was it definitely had entertainment value to it. The Cup race, I don't know if I guess it was a better product than what we've had. It was dominated by one person, and that happens. That tends to happen for races from time to time. But it just really never felt like it built up to the potential that I thought it was going to have. Like, it just seemed to be a William Byron show. And I think building up the anticipation that we had literally the best eight. Hold on one second. The best 8 drivers that we could possibly have rolling into this racetrack. I kind of just expected a little bit more. When you look at Christopher Bell getting put out, like he gained more points during the entire. It's just it's disheartening. It really is, and I guess I think we've found a little bit better package for sure. For the all in all, there was passing, there was I guess action on the track, there was spin outs, there was stuff like that. So all in all, I mean, I just I'm one of those. I'm going to base the race off of of basically who won, right? I can't stand William Byron. I can't stand Hendrick Motorsports. So my opinion probably doesn't match others, but that's okay. We're gonna roll into Phoenix. I am all pro Toyota, and we'll put Martinsville behind us. It was honestly, and then I'll pass the baton. Everything that I feared was going to happen did happen. I rolled into Martinsville believing that we would have a Championship 4 that excluded Hendrick Motorsports. And then somehow or another, we wound up with the Championship 4 that's going to be between JGR and Hendrick. So let's not even get into the conspiracy with the 2 guys that were locked in and having motors blown. We'll just talk about that probably later on. But definitely had my head scratching how the heck that happened. But I'd like to know everybody else's opinion. Sorry, I haven't been so good at watching the support classes here of late. As I said, the Xfinity race, I think, had really good potential. But when you look at the stats and you realize, like, there's one guy with 10 wins and then there's another guy with no wins. And Sammy Smith, like, he was doing everything that he needed to do. Just the points weren't there. And so now we've got a guy, Carson Kavapel, who's going to be racing for a championship. He doesn't have a full-time ride for next year. And there's a potential that we have a guy that has 0 wins on the season that could somehow possibly win a championship, and I'm pro playoffs. Like, I'm pro playoffs, and then we have this, like, so building up. It's almost like the worst case scenario for all around. But I know the Xfinity stats are diluted because of the Cup drivers that come in and take some of those top 5 finishes, take some of those wins. And so what we're seeing with the Xfinity is not something that's just new. Like this is based off of the fact that at least 10 to 12 races had very big influences with not only Cup drivers but also part-time retired drivers. Eric Amarola, you look at his stats and it's just as good as any full-time Xfinity driver, and he only raced part-time. So outside of that, I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing y'all's opinion.
Jay, you're up next.
Well, Chris, I commend you for at least owning and admitting why it wasn't your favorite race, because your favorite driver or least favorite driver didn't win. And the more I see like Jeff Gluck's poll and listen to some of the things throughout the day on radio or see on social media, I think that's more and more the case. It's not truly about whether or not it was good racing. It was whether or not your favorite or it went the way you thought it should. I don't know of what you expected as far as it not being a Hendrick Motorsports dominated race, being their history there. I kind of thought Chase Elliott on the Cup side, Chase Elliott would have been a little more competitive. I know he was top 5, but he certainly didn't. One thing I know you mentioned Bell, you got to remember him and Larson were essentially racing for points. And as it came out, they needed to, with good reason. So yeah, they got to the point where they said, hey, we got to win because we're losing the battle to Kyle Larson. And if Byron wins or Blaney, either one of them, it was going to supplant one of them. So they were racing and dealing with the hand they were dealt. And that was they were going to have to points race each other if somebody below the cut line raced their way in. So, yeah, that trying to change the storyline, if you will, but that was everybody doing what they needed to do. So I got no problem with it. I think overall the racing was good. Did William Byron have the dominant car? Yes. But it also looked like he may not get the win as Ryan Blaney was right there. I mean, he had to be nudged in order to get by him. That too I know is kind of a separate hot topic. It was a bump and run, and Blaney had no issue with it, said, if I were running second, I proved it last year, I'd done the same thing. He didn't wipe him out, but he moved him, and that's your Martinsville race. Overall, all 3 races, I thought, provided that good racing, hard racing. You had some on-track scuffles pre or during the race as well as post-race in one case. You had the different strategies. The one pit stop, and this goes back to the Cup side, Christopher Bell waited, and whatever Larson did, he made a last-minute move to do something else because he said, hey, we're running behind them or not enough. If they don't come and get tires, we will, and see what happens because they got to take that shot. So I thought that was, again, strategy-wise, doing whatever you had to try and do. Didn't quite work out. But for the trucks, that one, ended in the tiebreaker where you needed the tiebreaker, I thought was cool. I know for the Xfinity at one point, I think it was like a 3-way tie of tiebreaker points all tied up throughout the race. It didn't end that way this time, and you had a couple of motor issues. I know it's been rare that we see that. I think we've seen that more this year than any other, especially from Ryan Blaney. And they gave a stat on that. If Blaney were to have gone on and won the championship, he's not going to, but with 7 DNFs, that hasn't been done since Rusty Wallace did it back in the 90s. 89, was it 89? Okay. I couldn't remember the year, but they threw that out there. I was like, that is amazing. I know he didn't get there, but he had a shot at it. But to understand that the year Blaney has had and still had that shot at the championship, and that goes back to the point system. And I know we'll get into that, but if that's the case, I don't understand why people aren't happy with this. But same way with this race. I don't know what more you could have had other than it being Ryan Blaney and William Byron side by side for 500 laps. and you're just not gonna get that. I'm sorry. I mean, it's short track racing. And especially when it comes to Martinsville Speedway, we saw that of you got a team, organization, or driver that has the track figured out and does well there. I mean, that's trying to think how them the rules. Sam Mayer, them are the rules. That's the way it is. On the Xfinity side, I thought it was kind of ironic you getting into who's in and who's out. Yeah, Connor Zilic, again, I don't remember now know where he finished. He wasn't part of the storyline, but he also knew he was locked in. And go back to Ryan Blaney, and you said it, you did acknowledge that there was passing. Started 31st, was up there in the top 10, got stage 1 points, and then got himself into position to battle for it. So again, there is passing, whatever. I don't know what more you could ask for or look for. On the truck side, the only thing there was, and I kind of understand that debate about the playoff format then, I think behind Corey Heim, your next biggest contender was Lane Riggs, and he's now not in it. But there again, it happens. I mean, I don't see it any differently in any other format. So, but no, racing I thought was all good. I don't know what more you could ask for other than, like I said, a side-by-side. Talladega style racing on Martinsville, I guess, is what fans are looking for. And that's not going to happen.
It's true. Yeah, I thought the racing was good across all 3 series. The truck series, I felt bad for Lane Riggs. But Jay, you and I have been talking about it all year long. What a difference 1 point can make. And that was the perfect example. That was a tie. And they were able to break that tie with Caden Honeycutt's performance during the playoffs. So Caden Honeycutt comes out on top, and Lane Riggs, it goes below that cut line. The thing that baffles me is that people watch college football and they can take a number 1 seeded team and they lose, and the underdog wins, and everybody accepts it.
It's celebrated.
But when it comes to NASCAR, they don't accept it. They want them. It's hard for people to believe that a guy who won 10 races during the season could get upset in that final race, which I'm glad they're thinking about changing that next year. And we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. But it's the same thing that happens in college football every year. So that's what happens here too. I really was hoping that we'd see all 3 manufacturers in the championship 4 at Phoenix, but it's going to be 2 manufacturers. It's going to be Chevy and Toyota. Toyota, you got to wonder, they had 3 engine failures this past weekend, and now they're going into that championship 4. Apparently, they're doing everything they possibly can do to check their parts and pieces to make sure that that doesn't happen next week. But it did happen this past week, and so you got to wonder about that. The other thing that I thought overall, I thought people raced overall fairly respectively. There were exceptions to that in the Xfinity race, and we'll talk about that between Mayer and Jeb Burton. But overall, I thought all 3 series did a pretty good job. I kept thinking NASCAR must have had a pretty stern talk with everybody about racing with respect throughout the playoffs. Some people got the message. Most people got the message. There were a couple people that didn't, maybe. But I thought overall they did a pretty good job. And I thought, I wanted Ryan Blaney to win, but unfortunately he wasn't on top at the right time and couldn't seem to get there when he needed to get there most. So it was a close finish in all 3 races. I thought that was good, the fact that it was such a close finish. And the other thing I was impressed with is a lot of the playoff drivers were up there at the top where you would expect them to be racing in this race. That wasn't the case all the way around, but we had the bottom 4 drivers. I think at least 3 of them were in the top 4 drivers. So everybody was really giving it their best shot to try to get into that championship 4, I thought. So I thought the racing was really good overall. And I don't want to repeat too much of what you guys have already said. So I'll pass it on back to Chris at this point.
Well, I'm looking forward to 750 horsepower package. I'm looking forward to Goodyear still working on a better tire. I don't think we're completely there yet. I think that there was still there's still room for improvement for short track racing. You can get to the rear bumper. You have to use the old checkered, chestnut checkered move to get around the leader. That's what we've seen.
You got to break their momentum.
Yeah.
Break their momentum.
Yeah. So, we're still at that part. We didn't see goers and comers on the tire package, and that's something that, is just the most important about any short track. You want to have goers and comers based off of tire wear. And so we're still at a point with Goodyear where we're not getting great tire wear. So there's lots and lots of room for improvement. Honestly, I feel like it all played out perfect for NASCAR, right? I mean, they've got their 4 charter teams, their most important teams in NASCAR right here in the final race of the season. Obviously, that's NASCAR's favorite, or they wouldn't have allowed them to keep 4 charters and make everybody else have 3. So, great. That's great for NASCAR. But what's great for NASCAR and what's great for racers is not necessarily great for fans. And I think that that's the point that we're at all around between what we've seen with the lawsuit and how it's kind of created this, the argument for how to do points championships. I believe we are finally to the point, and I'm not trying to bring this to a negative factor, but it is so much negativity that I think it's turning even the best of fans off from the product. And I've stated this
Agreed.
last week. I'm going to bring it again. I think that all this distraction and all this negative context, we can't find anything positive to talk about, has created fans long term to say, I could probably find something else to do on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, because there's not all this. There's a lot of glamour for NASCAR, but instead of worrying about what's good for the sport and focusing on what's awesome about it, we've unfortunately dug way too deep into the negative context of most of this. So I try to stay positive. Like I said, I mean, I'll be up front. No, I didn't like the winner, but I do like the fact that we are making headway on the package. And it's disappointing as, somebody who supports Ford, that they just didn't seem to find any. I mean, are there any Fords at all in any of the championships? I don't think so, right?
One out of the 12. One out of the 12. Somebody had those numbers today.
So let's go back to Caden Honeycutt, right? And he was kind of an object of controversy a few weeks ago when the announcement was that he was leaving his team and going somewhere else. How about that feel-good story? As a community, I wish that was the big story rolling into Phoenix. How a guy was with one team all year long. There was a decision made for him to leave that team. He winds up over at Hallmark Racing and is now going to take that Stewie franchise and go try to win a championship for his team. And that's the story that I feel like all this negative context has completely forgotten about. Also, we should celebrate Connor Zillich. He's the best thing since sliced bread. We heard that before with Joe Logano, right? So there are good stories that are coming out of this playoff picture. Most years, I ain't gonna lie to you, most years I'm really sad at this time because I hate to see racing go away for a little while. But this time I feel like it's probably best that we end the season when we do, because we've got to really do some regrouping, and I hope that all the fans get what they've asked for next year, and I hope it works out for the best for everybody. So I know that's kind of taking it off of what happened this Sunday, but honestly, this Sunday is the equivalent of the entire year. So you know, it's time to see what next year is going to bring. We've got a great championship ahead of us coming up. This is the last year that we're going to do this at Phoenix. We're going to go to Homestead next year. No telling when we'll be back at Phoenix. There's a lot of other storylines that I think are just not getting the exposure that they need right now.
All right. There we go. Sharon's starting to. Oops. Oh, you're not. You're unmuted, Sharon.
Yeah.
You're going to read them?
All right. Sports All Day was here, and I wanted to bring up some of his thoughts. He said 8-10 race better than I thought it would be. And then Jay asked him, what was missing for you, All Sports? Why better than you thought? And he says, I was expecting there to be longer runs with less passing. There was a lot of passing, which is awesome. A little sloppy, especially with Hurricane Hocevar, and a few others like Jones and Suarez hurt a bit. And I like that that nickname. Also, colder temps definitely didn't help tire wear. Sooner or later, we got to stop blaming Goodyear. They've saved some races this year, and I agree with that. I think they've done a good job overall with the tire this year. Majeski in trucks is a Ford. And then finally, I think this is the last one. It's Ford's own fault. They totally dismantled their driver development. Nothing in Xfinity really, besides AM and Ryan Sieg, which ain't that good. Nothing in ARCA, and a semi-declining ThorSport in trucks. And I agree with that. I think that they really, a lot of the Ford people went over to Chevy, and so all of that is showing up with Chevy right now. And Ford was left kind of high and dry with that shift in their members moving over to a different manufacturer. And I do know that these things kind of go in cycles too. So Ford right now is on the downside of that. But Jay, it's your turn.
Well, and I was going to read those. I didn't know if you had seen yet that he was on and chiming in here. Excellent points. I mean, first off, starting with whatever your reason, you said Hurricane Hocevar, the Jones Swartz. But there again, it's short track racing. Whoever it be, had Cody Ware again with the tire issue. All that is going to happen. I think the temperature, we talk about that. Normally it's with Bristol, the fall race at Bristol, where we have that issue. But that definitely was a factor. And then the grip. But the drivers knew that because they talked about that in the pre-race. And I'm trying to think who was in the Xfinity booth the day before, said that they didn't think that the track was going to rubber in and grip up like it does during a summer race or a spring race. You know, so that is. He's 100% right. Majeski to be in the one Ford out of the, technically it's more than 12. Somebody had the number at 8.3%. But yeah, Majeski is the lone Ford representative. And I fully agree the Ford development program is where they've run into issues. Let drivers get away, as well as then not having that program like Chevrolet and Toyota does. And Toyota set that standard. I mean, and we still see that. Toyota is developing more drivers than they got room for at the Cup side, whereas Fords maybe have the room at the Cup end, but don't have the development, and so they're getting drivers from these other brands at different times. And now you factor in Dodge coming in and starting to make some noise as well. So going back to that, though, like I said, overall, I thought the racing was, and I say good, great. Yeah, absolutely. Chris is right. There can still be improvement, and NASCAR's always been good about that. I feel like of trying to improve or stay with the program. We talk about teams that are hot during the summer. You can't sit back on your laurels then and wait because other people are going to catch up. So yeah, I think they are still working with Goodyear. We've seen a lot of different things. I still don't think the horsepower is the answer, especially, and I never thought about this, as that changes, that then sets back what Goodyear has done with the tire, because now with different horsepower package, it's going to change how the tire does. So hopefully they're working together and doing some testing and figuring that out. So again, we may go through this next year again, though, of now we got more horsepower. How do we adjust the tires? But I commend Goodyear. We've had some bad situations, none that I would call ugly, like the Pocono deal years ago. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Indy. I said Pocono. My bad. I meant Indy. You're right, Sharon. So I kind of worry about that, but I know that Goodyear works very hard, and they've done some great things with that tire package, the softer tire, the option tire, as they call it in certain races. So I look forward to it. Is there going to be some hiccups and whatnot? I think so. The one thing I also take from what Chris said of that, how'd you put it? That there's good storylines there, but you got to be willing to see them. Of some fans get this. Mm-hmm. It's William Byron, and I'm just going to pick on you, Chris, because I know you can take it. It's William Byron won. It's bad race, nothing good. Well, no, there were good things. Did your least favorite driver win, or your favorite driver? Chase Elliott didn't win. Okay, no, he didn't. He's not in the champ. But there were some good. Caden Honeycutt, like you said, absolutely a great storyline. And I know they did talk about it some. I'm with you. I thought it should have been more, and I think going into this week it will be more because he now is. And Lane Riggs not being that, I'm sure that'll be also a storyline, because he could come out and be that spoiler of non-championship 4 race winner, still in contention for the race win. So, and lastly, Sharon, I just wanted to thumbs up and bow down and praise you. You were talking about college football. If Alabama wins 59-0, it was a great game. Why? What was exciting about that? Not a darn thing, for me. That's what I don't understand that. But if a driver dominates a race, oh yeah, then it was boring because that guy dominated. Like, wow. I mean, mute. There you go.
It is surprising because I hear that a lot. All Sports All Day is talking about the horsepower, definitely not the problem on short tracks. And I 100% agree with that. I've been saying that the whole time. It's not the horsepower, it's the tires. And they made changes to tires, and they made the racing better.
He was making some good points, but now he said if the Vols won 59-0, that would be a great game. I don't know what he's drinking, but you need to put that bottle away for the night. You've had enough. No, just kidding.
Just kidding there. Okay. But yeah, it amazes me how they accept that kind of stuff in college football. But if it happens in NASCAR, it's just a horrible, horrible thing. But I agree with what Chris said. We've got a lot of fans have gotten into this negativity cycle, and they don't realize that by breeding that negativity, they're degrading the sport, and the sport that you supposedly love. And I've always been adamant about that. We're here to promote the sport, not demote the sport. So I like to try to look for the positive side of things, and because I think that encourages other people to look deeper into the sport. When we are so bent on the negativity side of it, we're discouraging people from even being a part of this sport, and that bothers me a lot. I think that we need to be more focused on promoting and encouraging people to engage in this sport. And NASCAR fans are guilty of doing that. They just find something negative about every little thing. And I love this sport. And when I hear that all the time, I don't go on Twitter sometimes because I don't want to hear it.
Right.
I want to come up to my own conclusions. I don't want to be force-fed negativity. And for that to be
I love controversy. I don't like negativity.
Well, controversy is
That's-
one thing, but
yeah.
negativity is another
Controversy
thing.
is like the soap opera. It continues the story. It builds the pressure. It does all that. Negativity destroys the sport.
It says it's easy to be negative. There are a lot of things to fix now. Over the summer, I started to be a bit harsh. Then I realized us fans will never get what we want till we're grateful for what we have. And that is the truth. And that is profound. Jay said, now that's profound. That is a great point. We've got to be grateful for the sport that we have because there are so many good things about it. Are there, and I will tell you this right now, NASCAR is never, ever, ever going to be perfect.
Right.
It's not going to happen. It's an unrealistic expectation.
Right.
And I'll tell you, it is ever evolving. It's never going to be the same. It is constantly changing. And part of the changes that we see taking place, there's one thing about being constructively critical and offering suggestions for improvement. And NASCAR wants to listen to those kinds of things. But they've got to be careful trying to say too much at once. They also have to be careful about the knee-jerk reaction to some of the things that are said and done, because sometimes they can be so quick to make the change that fans later regret. And I think there could be some positive things that come out of the playoff format changes that are being proposed. But I do think that we've got to be careful because I remember the days of the single points and it just wasn't exciting. It wasn't fun to watch.
I think you said it real well, Sharon. There is a difference between constructive complaint or constructive criticism and moaning and complaining. I'll use those words.
Yes, there is a difference. And I would like for fans to, for everything you say negative, if you could come up with something positive to go with it, it might make it a little more palatable. But what happens is that if it's constant negative, people start tuning that out. People like me start tuning that out because
Get older, you don't want to deal with it.
I don't want to deal with it. I'm sick of it. So throw in some positives in there sometimes, because I think that helps too. And I know that there's a lot of good things that are happening at NASCAR at the same time that there are room for improvement, and there is always going to be room for improvement. So that's my 2 cents worth, I guess.
So, and look, I want to break off. The one thing that I love about open discussion is it creates these other avenues. And one of those avenues that we just created a few minutes ago was now, Ford's basically in a pickle. They don't have a very good support program built. They're not developing drivers. It seems to be that Ford is where Toyota was probably 10, 15 years ago. You just the minimum. But let's go back. First of all, let's talk about what Toyota did over the last 10 years that completely changed the landscape of racing. They were producing drivers, two and three drivers a year for 3 years. We've got Noah Gragson, we've got William Byron, who started in Toyota. We have Christopher Bell. We have what's the other guy? Harrison Burton, who didn't make it or whatever. These guys were Toyota development drivers. When you have somebody that's willing, or basically a manufacturer that's willing to pump all that money into young talent, you have to understand that it is cheaper for Ford to go buy a driver than it ever is for Ford to develop a driver. And Ford has, 20, 25 years ago, it was Ford that was developing drivers only to be sent down the road to Chevy or to Dodge or to eventually Toyota. And do you need the names? I mean, we can start with Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon was a Ford development driver. Casey Kane was a Ford developmental driver. Kyle Busch was a Ford developmental driver. All these guys were a lot of money was invested into them and their younger talents, but eventually they left the coop and went and raced at other places. So it's in a position that Ford is in, you almost have to take up for them because it is a lot easier to go, and especially with drivers and the contracts that they have these days. It's nowhere near compared to the millions and millions of dollars that it costed maybe 10 to 15 years ago. So Ford can basically sit back, allow these drivers to be developed by Toyota Racing Development, and pick which ones that they may want to, invest into later on and possibly write a big check for them. So you can't really knock them for that strategy. And also, the racing community, we've talked about this before, Chevy and Toyota really make an impression within not just NASCAR in the top league, Cup racing, but they fulfill other factors as well throughout the racing community, all the way down to short track racing. So, Ford is eating, they say make you lay in the bed that you made, and that's where they're at right now. And it's not that they don't have talented race car drivers. I mean, they didn't, Joey Logano is a 3-time champion for Ford. They didn't develop Joey Logano. They got Joey Logano from Toyota, another original Toyota development driver. So, and maybe Joey goes back far enough to where he was originally with Chevrolet. I'm not really sure. I'll have to go back and check that one. It was, I believe, in 07 when Toyota come along. Maybe that was at the beginning of his career.
Yeah, I don't remember what he came out of it before becoming JGR Toyota.
Yeah.
Was he with Hendrick at one point? I can't remember now.
No, right. I'm trying to think what Venturini was because he came through Venturini. Well, Venturini might have been Ford at that time. Okay. I don't remember. Or Chevy.
But that's another thing. ARCA is a great breeding ground where you develop drivers. Ford's going to have to reset. They're going to have to reinvest back into the Xfinity series. You have Dodge coming along. We'll probably see Toyota not invest so much into their racing development program because you have somebody else who's going to build that farm system. And as I said, with the rate that these drivers cost these days, it's easier to pick the one that you want versus putting a whole lot of kids into seats and having tore up equipment that costs you a lot of money. Ask Roush how much money it costed to run those Xfinity development teams. He'll tell you real quick. Ricky Stenhouse, Trevor Bayne, they costed them a lot of money when they weren't putting out the results that they needed to. So, I'm not taking up for Ford there. I think that it is, they've got a serious issue in the Xfinity right now. Ilmar Motors takes over in the truck series, so you don't really, all you have is the emblem on the front of the car, but Xfinity is where they're gonna have to find a stable team. I know y'all left out that Haas Racing, they are Ford, and they had a couple of drivers that were in the Final 8, I believe.
And I think they're moving to Chevy.
They are. They're switching.
Next year they're moving to Chevy, so now it's even gotten worse for them. So
they were the only really Ford teams left.
Yeah, I want to see a reinvestment into the Xfinity program.
Even Brad Keselowski, you're talking about RFK. Brad has said that, can you do it right out the gate? No, it costs money, but he said that is in the future outlook because in order to sustain, they got to have their own program. You look at like Connor Zilic, he's signed already with a manufacturer, as is Corey Heim. And you look at the issues that they're having there. The manufacturers are signing them, but where do you put them if you don't have the spots? And that's where you're running into the problem.
Right. I agree.
Okay. Couple more comments here from, he says, one thing to be grateful for this week is Championship 4 are all drivers top 4 in points. No more discussion of not earning it. But I also dislike when people blame Logano, blame the system, not Giggles Logano.
Not Giggles. Wait a minute.
I know, that was awesome.
Taz,
Yeah.
is that you, Taz? Come on now.
No,
No, I think it's okay. Also, Jay came back and said that's why comparing the old points with today's results is meaningless. Drivers know the system and race it accordingly. And that is exactly right. Whatever the system is, the drivers are going to race whatever the system is.
I think Joey and Bubba Wallace are the two that have said that. Whatever you're going to do, you tell me, and I'm going to race accordingly. And Martin Truex, I think, was the one to really embrace stage racing and building stage points. He said, I may not agree with it. I don't understand it, but I know they're valuable, and I'm going to go get them. I mean, he was the first one to show, hey, if you collect the bonus points throughout the year, you're going to sit pretty good in the championship run.
Right.
That's what you do. That's the way the system is, you know. I mean.
And then talking about Venturini was Toyota, I'm pretty sure they are most recently. And Jay says that have been for a while, but what were they before Toyota came along?
Okay, they were Chevy.
All sports. Oh my gosh, you're right. Just found it. Chevy Monte Carlo for Venturini in the number 25. And then also, I think 08 ARCA, he was Chevy. 09 ARCA was Toyota.
Yeah, I knew they had been Toyota for a long time, but they were something before that. And I couldn't remember what. And I didn't want to lean on Sharon as the veteran of the group.
Well, and I wasn't 100% sure. I couldn't remember. But thanks. Age before beauty, right? Okay.
I don't qualify in either one of them, darn it.
Anyway, I think you brought up some really good points there. So I really appreciate All Sports All Day chiming in here. If anybody else wants to chime in, we welcome that. And we will put your comments up on the screen, provided that they are appropriate to do so. So anyway, Jay, did you have anything more you wanted to say here?
Not on this. I'm just waiting to go to the next topic if I get to pick it.
What is the next topic?
Controversy. Chris used that word of controversy. So we'll go with Sam Mayer on the track as well as off the track, because I personally view it as two different things.
Okay, so why don't we start with you on that, Jay?
All right, so during the Xfinity race, two drivers, in this case, Sam Mayer and Jeb Burton, apparently had some issues. And I didn't.
The last race, too, by the way.
Right. Well, and it always does. It generally does. I shouldn't say always. Generally does of carryover of throughout the year, last race. I didn't see or am real sure on what Justin Allgaier apparently had some words with Sam Mayer as well. And I think back to tying that in, they were teammates 2 years ago, 1 or 2 years ago. Whether or not that ties into why he left Junior Motorsports and went to Haas Factory, I don't know. But going with this weekend, after the race, checkered flag came out. You saw it coming. It happened. Sam Mayer took out Jeb Burton, which is a Jordan Anderson team car. So we'll see what happens there. I'm sure NASCAR is not happy with that. We've seen that in the past. It was after the race, but there are still some concerns as far as that. I don't agree with that, again, on the track. The interview, and this is where I heard a lot today, people ragging on the interview. Did I agree with the words he used and all of what he said? No. However, I like the fact that he expressed himself. And this is where I have my issue is with the fans. We don't want a vanilla, oh, I had a good day, or blah, blah, and no emotion from the driver. Sam Mayer showed some emotion. Should he have controlled some of it? Probably. Okay. The name calling, I think back to drivers like Ward Burton. I mean, Tony Stewart, when they were mad and they got out, they had some things to say. What was it? Ward Burton, and I think it was Robbie Gordon. He puts that helmet on and he just becomes an idiot. You know, yeah, it's name calling. I get it, but I thought it's a great clip, right? So I like that aspect of it. Now, again, was it over the line in some of the things he said and whatnot? But if you fully listen to it, he did say he regretted the fact of what he did to Jordan Anderson as a team. And Jordan Anderson came over. They had a discussion. Jordan Anderson expressed his frustration, and Sam Mayer pretty much didn't. I mean, he had his side to it, but in his interview, he did say, I understand their position. They don't have thousands of cars on stock, and he said he felt bad for the organization. He said he still don't like the driver and wanted everything against that driver, and maybe that's Jordan Anderson should look at who they have as their driver. But so, like I said, I'm not as against it as what a lot of people were as far as the interview side. On track, I know the morning show, they are 100% expecting him not to be at Phoenix next weekend, and that may very well be. We'll have to see what NASCAR decides. We'll hear a little bit tomorrow morning, but the penalty normally is into Wednesday. So what are y'all's thought on it? The controversy.
Chris, what are your thoughts?
Well, I love controversy. What can I say? I understand retaliation is part of the sport. It's a physical sport. You do understand when you wreck a car under caution or at the end of the race that you're taking cheap shots. Like that's, be a man, handle it, go fisticuffs with each other. I understand why he would be scared of Jeb Burton. Jeb Burton wrestles deer out in the pasture and probably drags them back to the house to skin them. So I wouldn't mess too much with Jeb either. When you use your car as a weapon, even be it against another car, people seem to question your sanity. We watched Brian Vickers, 10 years ago, have a meltdown at Martinsville. That was completely losing your mind. The issue with it is it was at the end of the race, and we've seen shenanigans happen at the end of the race, people, bumping cars and whatnot. But I guess I don't want to see him get completely thrown out. I don't think that I think a good fine would be what should happen there. I did not see that as like a Ron Hornaday, Kyle Busch type situation. I didn't see that as, even Noah Gragson got a bad rap for what he did at the road course that one time, where he got into a lot of trouble. He did purposely wreck somebody and then admitted it. I think that's probably the worst mistake that you can make is admitting something. At least you could have said my throttle stuck or something. I mean, who knows? Whatever. You could have, when you admit to it, it seems to be a more of a punishment added to that. Like Jay said, I don't want to see these guys turn vanilla. I do like the controversy. I think that the crowd enjoyed the after the race festivities. Those that stuck around got a show. That's what those guys are there for. They're there for a show. It's Martinsville. Wasn't it Jay Sauter a few years ago too that did the same thing, like on pit row or something? Not Jay Sauter, Johnny Sauter. I'm sorry. That just shows how long I've been around, right? I mean,
they've all been involved. Sauters have been involved in post race a lot, all of them.
And Jay was the father, right? So that's back in the '90s. But God bless America, Johnny Sauter. As a matter of fact, I think that's where the terminology "Black God Bless America," Johnny Sauter come from, because his interview basically he had the meltdown and he said God bless America, and that's kind of where I picked up from that on. I love that we have guys who are willing to throw some emotion out there. Was it bad timing? Would it have been better to have confrontation on pit row than to put yourself and your team in a position where they may have to find a substitute driver next year? It's the last race of this, I didn't mean to say last year, for the last race of the season. Absolutely. I think that was a little bit probably overdone by the driver. But all in all, I mean, I want to see it. I want to see controversy. I want to see guys get upset. I love it. Like, one of the images coming out from this past weekend at Why Not is not just the cars going around in circles and And shooting rooster tails, it's one guy that had a one finger salute to another driver, and that's a pretty popular pick. Why is it a popular pick? Because we want to see that emotion. We feel that emotion when we get cut off in traffic. We say things that we would not say in front of our mother. It's just the way it is. So this is what we get to see from racing, and I think that's part of the excitement. How about you, Miss Sharon? How about you, Susan?
Susan.
Hey, Susan's back.
I just wanted to I'm going to preface this by saying I'm speaking from a mom perspective, okay? And I know none of you are looking at it from that perspective. But if I bring my child to the sport, I don't want him or her listening to that kind of stuff from other drivers. We teach our children good sportsmanship, right?
Understood, yeah. Well, Chris
Maybe,
apparently don't.
Yeah. I also teach my kids that if you get punched in the mouth, you better punch them harder, because if not, you're going to be in trouble.
Well, I get that. But I just think that these guys are role models, just like any other sports role model. And I know we have a lot of sports role models out there that aren't really good role models. But we pray before every race. I love that we pray before every race.
How does hockey get off the hook? But I'm sorry.
I don't watch hockey.
Okay, I understand.
That's why I don't watch hockey. Okay, I agree. It's okay to have emotions, but I think there's an appropriate way to express those emotions and an inappropriate way to express those emotions. Some people have control of their emotions, and I get a little wound up sometimes, and I'm not immune to that either. But I don't necessarily. I might get a little frustrated, but I just think that these drivers, and I know it's heat of the moment. I know Sam Mayer's probably looking at that maybe a little bit differently. There are some people probably egging him on with what he said, but I just feel like there's an appropriate way to express your emotions and in an inappropriate way. And doing it on the track with your car is definitely an inappropriate way to do that. Using some of the language that he used is not appropriate. And ridiculing another driver, that is the lowest form of debate when you're talking about somebody. So I just think that maybe it's unfair. But again, I'm a mom, so I'm going to look at it from that perspective, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay.
Yes,
now, he says, Sam Mayer just giving reason against his I should be a cup driver talk a few years back. But as a fan, that was awesome. Oh, this was another point that I wanted to make, is that a lot of times when these guys say the things they say and do the things they say, he's putting Jeb Burton down for his driving. Okay. And I'm not going to say Jeb Burton's the greatest driver ever. I mean, I recognize what it is, but I do think that there has to be respect for one another. And he doesn't have to like the driver. He doesn't have to like his driving, but that is not appropriate, I don't think. Let's see some other points. All Sports All Day said, just giving, I already read this one. Let's see. A fine, no suspension. I think I agree with Jay. You said this later on. I think the general trend is that they do suspend them for a race for that kind of behavior. And I think it should be, because you should not be using your vehicle, especially after the fact. And to me, that is the same thing as the Ron Hornaday thing. It was during a caution when he had no business doing it. And same thing here. I'd rather, and then his other comment, I'd rather have him admit it. No sense hiding what we all saw. Sam did describe Jeb rules on track perfect. I thought that was so funny. Jeb Burton is out there racing for his position and for his team, just like every other driver. And this is what I take exception to. No driver should be expected to just pull over because you are a playoff driver.
I agree.
And I
agree with that.
I think that these drivers, if you're that good of a driver and you're a playoff driver, race around him. Get around him and do what you need to do. I saw Ryan Blaney do it all day. Okay. So I know these drivers can do it. You have to use your skill. That's what makes you a good race car driver. And when he belittles other drivers, when he gets up and acts the way he acted, I think it says more about who Sam Mayer is than what it says about the person that he's trying to ridicule and put down. I do think that these drivers need to be really careful because he is not the best thing since sliced bread. Sam Mayer is not. And he needs to show what he can do on the track rather than trying to bully his way around the track. And to me, that's what he was being, a big bully out there on the track. And I think NASCAR needs to address drivers who think they're the bully on the track. And so I fully expect NASCAR to do something about it. This is not a bully sport. This should be about skill. It should be about skill. That's what racing is, right? And I know I'm very high on skill. I'm not about the pushing each other around and all of that. I'm not a guy either, and I know you guys look at it differently. But I really think this should be about the skill and not drivers out there bullying them around. Jay, what are you laughing about?
Put up all sports.
Oh.
Not sliced bread, it's moldy bread.
Oh, I didn't get that far. Oh, there's a lot here. He's got, but we don't left hook him on the off ramp into a guardrail. I get the point though, Chris. Yeah. We don't do that when we have road. Sometimes they do, and it's not appropriate either. Great point. Don't take nothing from nobody. Sharon, if they ever stop praying before the race, that may be the only thing that would turn me off the sport. One of my favorite parts of it. Me too. That's one of the things that kind of pulled me into racing is the fact that they pray before every race. You don't see that in every sport. And I love that they do that. So yeah. Okay, here it is. Moldy bread mayor. Not sliced bread.
The one thing with the interview, I said I was actually in favor of the interview. That was the one point he made that I didn't agree with was when he said of how they need to race around, and he used the term, I guess, the Xfinity. I didn't notice that. I know who's in and who's out, but the blue spoiler. Yeah, if you're saying he should give room or pull over because he's a playoff driver, no, I totally disagree with that. Now, Sharon, you were talking about the ridiculing another driver. Again, did he go a little too far with how he said it? I mean, I think about this. When we talk about Kyle Larson, we talk about sometimes he overdrives the car. That's one of those with what Sam Mayer said. He's fat, and I'm trying to think of how he worded it. And I know All Sports All Day didn't have the exact wording, but he's fast enough to be dangerous, but not fast enough to do anything about it. And that, just saying it in those words, is a jab, but not as filled as what Sam Mayer did. He had some other words in there and whatnot. And that's where I said maybe it was a little over the line. But the jab on his opinion on how he drives or whatever, I was okay with. Like I said, I go back to Tony Stewart talking about drivers, Ward Burton talking about Robbie Gordon putting the helmet on and losing his mind. Makes me think of, I know we talk about Black Flag Billy Walker that way. There are some that, when they put the helmet on, it cuts the oxygen off to their head, But that also is what creates the interest in the sport, good or bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you said this, Jay.
Yeah,
It's
he
hilarious
agrees with
when they
that.
say the throttle struck or the steering broke, and it was clearly intentional.
Oh yeah, trying to deny it. Yeah, I agree with that. Of when they're, oh no, it was this, that. No, you ran into the dude. Just
Yeah.
it is.
And I
But
agree with All Sports All Day. I'd rather them be honest.
All sports all day done already. Well, appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah, we do appreciate it very much. 11 o'clock, got to head out. Thank you guys so much for what y'all do. Love when I can hop on these Monday nights. Have a great rest of your night. Thank you, All Sports All Day. You made our night. So we always appreciate you chiming in, and we encourage others to do the same.
He had some great insight, and I appreciate it. I know he was looking up some stats as we were talking about things. He was looking things up for us, so we definitely appreciate that. But yeah, so like I said, I'm not 100% in favor of the interview, but I am okay with it. The one thing, and Sharon, you mentioned this, I think he knew already, hey, I'm in trouble. I know what I did on the track, and that's going to get me in trouble. I might as well go full bore, because he said it during the interview. I'm probably going to get in trouble for this interview. He already knew it, so he's like, and I think back, there was a poker tournament I watched. You can't say words on national televised. And once he did one, Mike Mazzano is like, well, F this, I'm going to F and do this and F and earn it. And so, yeah, it was 10 minutes per word he used, and he ended up sitting out for an hour. Once you know you're in, yeah, I mean, what the heck? But like I said, I'm not 100% behind it. He has an opinion on said driver, whether I agree with it or not. We've all had our opinion of certain drivers that are in a car because of the money behind them and not their talent. And I feel like that's where he's coming from. So I can understand that. Would I have used all the words he used? No. Again, it was that. And like I said, I think he already knew I'm already in trouble. So if I'm going to get in trouble, I'm going to make it worth it type deal. I'm in deep, might as well stay here.
Well, I'm with All Sports All Day on this, too. I'm so done with playoff drivers thinking they should get special treatment. That's like the weakest thing. Don't expect drivers to pull over for you.
and that, like I said, that was absolutely the one part I disagreed with when he referenced the blue spoiler. No, if that's your stance, you're in the wrong. They're out there to win that race or fight for the win, their team, their season. That goes to whether it's a teammate, whether it's a playoff driver. Now, again, I'm not saying you should be wrecking the playoff drivers because you don't want them to win the championship. That's the manipulation. Yeah, I'm not for that. But just to pull over and let them go, no. And I think back to Ryan Newman. Whoever was behind him, it didn't matter. You weren't passing him with any kind of ease. He didn't care who you were.
You had to work for it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that goes back to then, like you were talking about, the skill set, Sharon. So, like I said, I know it's going to create some things for the next week or two. If they were to suspend him for one race, here's my thing, is that really a penalty at this point? He's already out of the playoffs, the championship 4.
No, he still needs to be penalized.
But I'm saying if he does have to sit out this final race of the year, is it truly a penalty? I mean, yeah, I understand one race, it's still where he sits in points, and I don't know how their contract is and could affect him. But as far as it affecting his season or anything, when Austin Hill got penalized, it affected his season. In this case, I don't feel like it's a penalty because it's really not going to affect their season. It's all about winning the championship, and they're out of it now anyway. So
maybe he starts negative 10.
Right, and that'd carry over into next year. We'll have to wait and see. That's in NASCAR's hands, and we'll talk about it next Monday. What about you, Chris? I know you're all for it.
Look,
let her fly.
Racing's a contact sport. I think back to Dale Jr. saying the S word on national television, and it cost him a championship. And where we are today. But I noticed this change with racers and interviews a few years ago at the Dome, at the Gateway Nationals.
One this year.
Guys were coming on there. They were dropping F-bombs. They were doing things that you would never typically hear in an interview, and I just kind of feel like that kind of set the precedent of where we are now and how these guys are interviewing under emotional stress. And look, I'm a big boy. I don't get my panties in a wad over cuss words being on TV, but I'm a dad and I'm an older man and I grew up in sports, and if Mama heard my potty mouth at practice, she would have put a bar of ivory soap down my throat. Thank God she wasn't there, and it wasn't disrespectful like that. And I think that raw emotion could be cleaned up just a tad bit, as it was controlled back in the day. You could come out with what you wanted to say, but not use the words that could get you in trouble. And I understand that the what's the broadcasting company, they're no longer as strenuous on those types of words being used, so it doesn't really go into fine broadcasting fines anymore. But I don't want to take the emotion out of the sport. There's always been emotion in the sport. There's always been controversy. There's always been one person's
Yes.
opinion over another. If you've heard the old stories about Curtis Turner and Brian Bill France, Big Bill France, there were guns involved. Like this sport was not a clean sport. This sport was created from
Oh, I
outlaws
know.
who ran moonshine. They weren't the cleanest of people.
But
And
NASCAR
so
is trying to change the culture too, right?
do what now?
NASCAR is trying to change that outlaw culture. Although I hear their next commercial may go backwards on that.
Well,
The next
that's
marketing
great that you
thing.
said that, because NASCAR also says that they don't believe in race manipulation, but they put a colorful spoiler on the back of the cars that are racing for playoff position, right? So it's like, oh, don't do this, but here's a spoiler so everybody knows who you are when you're coming through there. Oh, well, that's designed for the fans. That's obviously that's not how the racers take it. If they got a blue spoiler on their car, they expect you to get the heck out of
That's
the
a
way.
prestige thing for the racers.
Right. And so, NASCAR wants to play both sides.
It's better than pink, Chris.
Huh?
It's better than pink. How come dirt track uses pink?
Well, that's the points leader. And,
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, I
same
don't know.
thing, same concept.
I'm colorblind. Is it pink or orange?
Different ones. A lot of them are pink, but yeah, no, you're right. There are some orange. It has been an orange, but it's same thing. You're identifying the points leader. That kind of puts the target. It's a target, no matter how you look at it.
Well, it should be a target, and it should, look, I'm not going to move over. Like, who the heck are you, right, to tell me to move over? I'm racing for something. Moving out of your way could cost me another position, because behind you could be a lap car that says, okay, he's slowing down for me. I'm going to take advantage of that. So I've never
Okay.
been a fan of giving somebody a position. I don't care if it's my favorite driver. I don't want to see that. That's just not. And so,
That's not racing.
no, it's not. No, but emotion is. And getting mad at somebody is very much racing. Fights in the pits, that's racing. I mean, there's a fan base that likes wrecks and likes fights. I promise you that they're part of the fan base. And if you eliminate those people from the fan base, you're probably not a very popular venue anymore, because those people really fill in half the grandstands for some of those very reasons. They want controversy. They want drama. People, you just said earlier that you don't watch hockey because of how they act, right? But there's a slew of people that love hockey because of
Ooh, and
that.
they're crazy too. Man, they're
And
crazy.
football gained its popularity off of NFL films showing somebody's
Raider
body
Nation.
being repercussed after getting hit in midair, right? We're not allowed to do those hits anymore. Basically, anything that you watch from the old NFL films, those are all illegal hits now. So, yeah, we've tried to clean up sports and tried to clean up the
This is not
unnecessary
healthy.
roughness, ma'am.
Because concussions are not healthy for people.
Right. And we've changed the rules at football to protect quarterbacks because they're such a valuable asset to the game. And now we have 47 to 45 games that have to be interesting, and everybody will hate on a 7-3 game. Some of my favorite Alabama games in the past have been LSU games where it was 13-7 or 10-3. Those were the hard hitting, old school, rough games. To this day, when you have baseball, you had a guy yesterday. Out of all the complaining about pitchers these days, they don't go the innings. I think we've had in since the playoffs of the baseball playoffs, we've had like 8 pitchers pitch complete games. You don't even see that during the regular season, but you're seeing it now because these guys are dominant, and that's the old baseball that I miss. Like, baseball's not as entertaining anymore when you have a starting pitcher that gets pulled in the 5th inning for a pitch count. I want to see the stars. I want to see the stars, and I want to see the emotion of somebody who's gone the distance and completed the task.
Yeah.
I think that's beneficial to all sports to have that type of emotion, those types of endings. So yeah, that's where I am with the
Emotion is
controversy.
fine. How you express it is important.
I want to jump
Had a
in.
great way of expressing himself, and we all thought it was hilarious. So
I want to jump in there. Oh,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Chris. Go ahead.
No. I'm just naming names. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you on that. You brought up a very interesting point, and I wanted to bring something to that. When I went to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting in Atlanta, when you talk about television or the FCC radio, yes, certain words in your image was one thing. With what we now have on the streaming devices, Flow Racing, and I think Flow Racing is the one that covers the dome, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So yeah, it's okay because it's not under the FCC, just like Sirius XM. It's on not on public radio, so they can get away with things. That doesn't mean you have to go full bore and use the F word every other word.
True.
Do I personally, and this is a personal thing, do I like the fact that they can express themselves? Yes. Did some of them go over the top with it? Absolutely. Tyler Carpenter is one of them that pops in my head. That's just ridiculous. You're doing it because you can. But that also then is setting yourself up for struggles such as Sam Marin. I don't know what his background is, where he came from, because when you come to NASCAR, and this is where you got to find a balance. There's sponsors involved, and it's broadcast television. So yes, there has to be a more refined. However, you can't, like you said, Chris, take it away completely of that. So yeah, if the occasional word slips out, they got to beep it out, and they always apologize and all that.
Do they still have the big red hauler?
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what NASCAR needs. Bring back the big red hauler. It's not like it used to be. I mean, that image is still there, but it's not like it was when France sat in it. And yeah, they talk about that. But like I said, we talk. Yeah, Helton. That's who I was thinking, not France. Helton was the one that was in the big red hauler. So, like I said, of being fined for the interview itself, I don't think he ought to be. I was okay with it. I don't fully agree with it. Like I said, the words used and how over the top it was. But as Chris pointed out, I think some of that comes from in the day and age of, what you can say at the local dirt track or on a podcast or streaming. Yeah, you can get away with it. Well, you got to clean it up a little bit. And then in comes the sponsors and the money. And, we saw that with Kyle Busch and M&M's. They said, hey, your conduct, that may be racing conduct. We're a Fortune 500 company. You represent us. We don't like it. We're pulling our money. So there, again, you got to find that balance.
Absolutely. Are we done with this one, or did you have something more to say, Chris?
One last thing, Jimmy Spencer nailed it with on Door Bumper Clear.
Oh man, I love Jimmy Spencer.
When he said that Bill Friends Sr. used to give something about a controversy where a driver threw a helmet at another driver. Bill Friends, instead of giving him a fine, asked how much did Tony pay for the helmet. Tony said $2,000. And Bill Friends wrote him a check for $2,000 and said, "Go throw another one." So that's where the sport has changed. And so it was also stated that the reason why that you don't see as much controversy in racing anymore as you used to, because fans react so passionately that when somebody does something that somebody else doesn't like, all of a sudden people are trying to boycott their sponsors, and that's really taken away the face of the sport. And so, you've got some of these guys that have paid for their own rides in dirt track racing and short track racing, and so they don't really have to fall or lean on that sponsorship area as much as some of these guys do. But Jay made a great point. Like, it's fine for him to show his emotion and his raw emotion, but what is the sponsors going to think about that? And could that have a negative effect down the road? It absolutely could.
I wonder if it would make a difference if Sam Mayer had to pay for Jeb Burton's car.
Well, and that's where he said he did, from Jordan Anderson's side, he said he did regret that because he knows how hard he works and what he brings to the sport, and he had respect for him as the owner and person, just not the driver. But yeah, it's like I said, there's a balance, and it needs to be found. I'm not all for, and I think about, Chris was talking about that era. You still have that at Bowman Gray, the Madhouse, and that's what they were expecting when NASCAR came. It's like, no, NASCAR's not going to tolerate that free for all, 3 different fights and cops and everything else, that they showed on the network program. But that track thrives because they pack the stands every week, because that's what they know they're going to get to see. They get to see the hockey fight and some racing in between.
Okay. Chris, do you want to pick the next topic?
How about you pick one for me?
Okay. How about Joe Gibbs Racing versus Hendrick Motorsports in the Championship 4?
Wow. How about
No.
that? I go back to my earlier comments. You have 2 organizations that both have 4 charters apiece. That's an extra $40 to $50 million into those organizations that other teams are not going to have. Now you've got those 4 guys that are going to be at the top of the standings. They're going to get the most point money. I thought that we made all these changes to the car to bring parity back to racing, and here we are, less than 3 years later, and the money rises to the top. I sit back a lot of times in racing, and I see pretty talented race car drivers that can do a lot with hardly anything. But I see a lot more of somebody who's got a whole lot that, you can't outrun money in racing. You cannot outrun money. Money is the ultimate. Money buys speed. And I think that where we are in this playoff structure and seeing these 4 teams where they are, the Hendrick versus Joe Gibbs, it's great for the talking heads. But in reality, it did not take us very long to get where we are. And I'm not saying that, the entire final 8 was built off of the top 3 organizations. And so there is no real true underdog story here. I think the real underdog story going, if we could pick one single factor, it has to be from Toyota. The underdog would probably be Chase Briscoe, but the elephant in the room is 0 for 19, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or 0 for 18. Is it 0 for 18 or 0 for 19?
I
think
was
it's 0 for 18. Right?
Okay.
So he could be 1 and 18. And that's Denny Hamlin. I think that where we are, in being that Hendrick is there, we both agree, Miss Sharon, that Hendrick has pulled a lot of shenanigans all year long, doing this and doing that, and getting caught doing this and getting caught doing that. And now
I
here
really
they
don't
are.
want them to win a championship.
The ultimate payout, they're right there. And, William Byron, probably not the best season on paper that you would expect. Christopher Bell, a heck of a lot better paper, on paper, a hell of a lot better season. But, honestly, William Byron is probably the favorite going into this. And so, I don't know. The parity sucks. Money rises to the top. They say cream rises to the top. I say money rises to the top. The only outcome that we could have that I think would be the real feel good story. Now if you're a Hendrick fan, you're going to say Larson with another championship. Or you're going to say Byron for his first championship. I think, I'm going to be putting all my cards into Denny Hamlin coming up this week. I want to see that one statement that he made to Joe Gibbs before he became a driver, that I'm going to go win you a championship. I want to see that promise fulfilled.
Okay, Jay.
I'm not going to completely dismiss what you're saying there as far as the money buys speed, Chris. And there certainly is, that adage. However, I think you still got to look at, as Sharon likes to say, the talent. Kyle Larson was in the mix when he was with Chip Ganassi. He always came up a little bit short, couldn't quite get to the championship. Now you put him in a top-tier team and a top-tier driver, they're going to rise to the top, even if you change things. Yes, the car, next-gen car brought things closer. We saw some competitiveness, but the talent, as well as, they talk about that, the organization. We see what's coming with, I feel like, Spire Motorsports, Colleague Racing, Trackhouse Racing. They're building to that. Again, Hendrick Motorsports was almost done because they couldn't win a race, and they got that one win, and that helped them propel them. So, yeah, money is important, but so is talent. Again, money gets you into a ride. That don't mean you can drive the car. I'm not going to say any names that go with that. But so it's a combination thing. The chemistry within a team, and we've seen that. We're going to talk about that. Even if you have the best crew chief, the best driver, the best this, if you aren't working together, something's just not gelling. Bring in the best crew chief to an organization, he leaves after 8 races. And he may not be the best. It's an opinion. I got it. But so, it does take all of the things. Is money a big factor? Absolutely. Again, can't deny that. But they are the top organizations for a reason, and that's sustainability over years. This isn't this year. This has been built. Go back to Joe Gibbs Racing, what they were when they first started. Maybe got a win here or there. They built that, and that is through the people and the organization. Yes, to get that, they had to have the money, get it. That it goes hand in hand. But, when it comes to that, if you look at the drivers that are there, the talent is there as well. So we'll see how these other organizations respond. You still got to play catch up because they're at the top for a reason. Penske, again, did they lose a little bit? Obviously so. I mean, Ford doesn't have one in. And I'm with you. I know you guys said it before. Ultimately, you'd like to see every manufacturer represented. Ford just didn't have it. I mean, Blaney gave it everything he had, and that was a big concern. If Ford could get into the Phoenix race specifically, what happened. So I like it. I'll throw this out there. I don't know that you're one that pointed it out, Chris, but others have before. Winning Daytona don't mean nothing. 3 drivers that won the Daytona race in each in each series are in the championship 4. The only one that truly is William Byron. He won the Daytona 500. He's in the playoffs, raced his way in. In the truck series, Corey Heim got the win because Parker Kligerman was DQ'd. Austin Hill is in, have won Daytona. He's in the owner's side, not the driver's, because of his penalty, but is still in it. So a lot of times we say that, Daytona win and Daytona don't mean nothing other than the Daytona win. But it actually did play out this year that they're all in the championship, one way or another.
I wanted to represent Taz here as well. He says, my version of odds for the championship for the Cup Series. Number 1, Byron. He's got a 6th, a 4th, and a 3rd in the fall next-gen races. He also has 1 win in the spring of 23. These are races at Phoenix.
The fall races at Phoenix, yeah.
Right. Number 2, Larson. He's got a 9th, a 3rd, and a 4th in the fall next-gen races. He's also won at Phoenix for the championship in 2021. That was pre-next-gen. Next-gen came in 22. Briscoe, number 3. He's got a 4th, a 29th, and a 29th in fall next gen races. He won the first race in the next gen era in the spring of 22. Number 4, Hamlin, an 8th, an 8th, and 11th in the fall next gen races. Best next gen finish at Phoenix was the spring of 25 when he finished 2nd in that race. So some interesting stats there shared with us by Taz. So who do you think is his favorite here? Based on these stats.
Yeah, William Byron, statistically speaking, and I listened, it's pretty much the same as what odd makers were doing, except for Denny Hamlin. They still have Hamlin as the favorite, and then Briscoe at the bottom. Byron with a little bit of an edge over Larson. That's one of those, though. Momentum and the evolution of that. When you look at Chase Briscoe, for example, well, for him, you can't really compare because he hasn't been there in a Joe Gibbs racing car. Right. You know, he was with Stuart Haas Racing. So that kind of skews his stats, if you will. They're good, and you can't argue with it. The stats are the stats, but there are other underlying factors. Again, whether or not they were racing for a championship, we talk about that. There is still that aspect of, I don't want to be the one that destroys the championship, so I am going to give a little more room to those that are. So take Denny Hamlin's stats, for example. Well, if he wasn't running for the championship, was he a little bit easier around them? You don't know. And that's an unknown because you don't know what a driver's thinking, how they're pushing and whatnot. In my mind, one of the races I think back of, he was busy trying to chase somebody backwards because he was upset with the guy behind him. So, yeah, his finish in that race, that was his own doing.
I do think Denny's in a different place this year, though. Anyway, Joe Gibbs Racing versus Hendrick Motorsports. I think it's these are the drivers that were dominating, for most of the season, for that matter. I think the right teams are in there. I think this was the strongest Championship 8 group that we've had in the playoff format. And I do think that there were going to be some good drivers that did not make it into this Final Four. And we knew that going into this race at Martinsville, that there were going to be some top name drivers that don't make it into the Championship 4, because the 4 drivers that were below that cut line, they gave it everything they could and came up short. And Ryan Blaney has wins at Martinsville as well. William Byron said he just found something that was able to, to make it happen, and he certainly did. And I'm sure that these guys spend a lot of time studying, especially a Martinsville race, where they know it's an elimination race. It makes the difference of whether you're in or you're out. So that has to be a high priority for them when they are looking at what can I do better. You've got to be better at Martinsville. So it's going to be interesting. I've made my feelings known very clearly about Hendrick Motorsports. I agree with Chris on this. They've been caught cheating all year long and blatantly cheating. After they've gone through inspection, they've gone about making changes to the car that they're not supposed to be making. And I don't think that's championship caliber. Right. I just don't. I don't think we should ever crown a champion that's been caught cheating throughout the year. And so that, for me, is a huge disappointment. So it leaves me cheering for the Joe Gibbs Racing drivers. And of the 2 Joe Gibbs Racing drivers, would it be nice? It would be a great storyline for Denny Hamlin to win it. I get the storyline side of that. He's gone 19 races or 18 races, whatever it is, without winning that championship. Not races, but years. maybe this is his year to win that championship. I think it would be an equally great storyline for Chase Briscoe, a guy who gets out of his car and prays before he does anything else. I think it would be a great storyline for Chase Briscoe to win this race or win this championship. And that's who I'm going to be cheering for, is Chase Briscoe. I hope he does it. He might be the underdog. And I just think it would be a great storyline for him to win this championship. So that's my thoughts in a nutshell.
Chase Briscoe basically spoiled Christopher Bell's chances to race for a championship, and that's why you need Talladega where you have it. That's that single race created the wild card factor. It changed the complexity of the playoffs. Had Chase Briscoe not won at Talladega, Chase would have been looked at as having a great year for JGR, and Christopher Bell would be battling more than likely with the other three drivers for a championship. I don't want to take anything away from Chase this year, but Christopher Bell has, he's in a nutshell. He wants complete change to the playoffs factor because they keep reminding him that he would be a championship winner 2 times over in the old format, right? And if was a fifth, we'd
Who
all
is
be
that?
drunk. Huh?
Chase Briscoe?
No,
No,
Bell.
Christopher Bell.
Oh, Christopher Bell. Okay.
Yeah, he's been very vocal about a 36 race champion because they whispered in his ear that, hey, you were the points leader last year based off the old points, and you would be the points leader this year based off the old style points. So, given that, maybe there's some fine line medium where we crown both a points champion.
We
and
do
a
that
title.
now with the regular season champion.
I know, but it doesn't seem to hold much. Doesn't seem to hold, much prestige, I should say, for that factor. But
That's your full season points right there.
right. But Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, they have nowhere near had the type of season that these guys at the front have had. Kyle Larson, I think most would say he's had an off season. The one thing that I did take from Taz's stats is that there's not really a true dominant racer here for this race.
That's true.
We could possibly see Christopher Bell go out and win this race and somebody else win the championship, or possibly a Ryan Blaney go and win the race and somebody else win the championship. So all in all, I can't wait for it. It's what we wait for all year long to crown a champion. I don't want to crown a champion 3 races till, so I'll pull for it. I'll be there. I'm going to be a big Denny Hamlin fan coming into this race. It reminds me a lot of Dale Earnhardt Sr. chasing Daytona.
Win, yeah.
Yeah.
Out of all his success, this is the one. And Darrell Waltrip as well. Like, we forget about Darrell Waltrip. It took him 17 times to win the Daytona.
But that's one race, not the championship. Yeah.
Yeah, but even still, though, he got his championships out of the way. This is just the exact opposite. Denny's a 3-time Daytona 500 champion. He's won all kinds of crown jewel events. This is the one that he needs for his trophy closet and to validate his career, so that he does not go down as just a little bit better Mark Martin or Carl Edwards.
Yep.
This is what he needs to vindicate his entire career. So I'm going to pull for him. And at the end, I hope he says, I beat your favorite drivers.
All year long.
Okay, Jay.
I got a whole lot of things here just sticking right now. We're talking about Denny Hamlin. Great storyline. If he does it, am I pulling for him? No. Am I rooting against him? No. Again, he's not my favorite driver, but if he wins it, he earned it. I think the reason he is listed on the odds favorite as far as betting side of it, because he has the 6 wins. When I look at it, probably Blaney is the one that, to me, had the strongest season all year. And I say that based on the wins he got, where he was at, could have got in, and that's with the 7 DNFs. So that weren't of his doing because it was engine issues. So I think he had the strongest season. Denny Hamlin, I think, is next as far as consistent throughout the year. I know he's had some issues lately, and that might be their downfall right now. When you look at Toyotas, and whatnot. Kyle Larson, when I look at it, though, of returning to form, we talked about after, whether it was due to the Brickyard in Indianapolis and Charlotte double, lost something. I think he's back to form or close to it. So I think he's a lot closer than what people are saying as far as Denny Hamlin. William Byron is the one that, again, he had a good, and I rank him with Christopher Bell. You're saying Bell has been the strongest all year. They had some hot streaks, but then also a lot of cold streaks, and just, where have they been? Did he come out and do what he had to do at Martinsville and do it with authority? Absolutely. But can he do it at Phoenix, because he hadn't been there all year? So that leaves Chase Briscoe. Briscoe is one, again, how much, I don't know the difference between jumping between manufacturers, coming to a new team. It is a top-tier team. I think in the latter half of the season has probably been one of the most consistent and coming on strong at the right time. So everybody has him ranked 3rd or 4th or whatnot. I don't know if I put him as far down as what other people are. Do I think the others, being that they have been championship contenders or have championships? Actually, Larson's the only one with a championship. Mm-hmm. Byron doesn't have one. And that brings me back to something else. I know Chris is off video, but he can still hear. I heard today talking about conspiracy theories. One of the guys I talked with at Bib, his conspiracy theory was Hendrick Motorsports and Chase Elliott did not race at Martinsville because they wanted William Byron to win the championship so that each one of their drivers had a championship. And I'm like, there is no way Chase Elliott did not race hard at Martinsville so that William Byron could win a championship. I was less like, man, you need to get with my buddy Chris. Like, y'all get in your helicopters and fly somewhere else. I was like, no, there is no way.
No. The real conspiracy was JGR giving Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe 2 motors that were going to bomb because they wanted Christopher Bell to have a better chance at making his way in, because Denny Hamlin could have possibly won and Chase Briscoe could have possibly won. That would have had a negative effect.
That makes me mad.
I would buy more into that one than I do that anti-Chase Elliott one. I was like, no, there ain't no way Chase Elliott. He ended up 5th. And it surprised me, honestly, with Hendrick Motorsports. I said on our preview show, somebody from below the cut line, and it could have been Blaney. I had a little bit of hope for Logano, but again, he was just where he's been all year, not quite where he's been in the past. But I really did think that Blaney, Elliott would have been my next pick. Byron, because it is HMS, and he's the one that took HMS notes. Everybody throughout the weekend was saying, hey, that's Jeff Gordon-like, that they put Jeff Gordon in the car with the line he was running and everything. But Elliott also, during the race, if you watched, and television coverage did a good job, in my opinion, of showing how Elliott was diamonding the corner when he could. And making some great passes, again, adjusting to the track and how to make it work. But so, like I said, I think, he is still a little bit of a dark horse, but I really put Chase Briscoe up there a lot closer. And I like you, Sharon, said, there is no dominant. There is no odds-on favorite. When you look at the Xfinity, got to go through Connor Zilic. Trucks, got to go through Corey Heim. I don't know that you got to go through any one driver. Again, stats-wise, 6 wins. Okay, I see what you're saying, Hamlin. It's his year, whatever. I can't argue against it, but I can still argue for the others based on what I've said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not that I don't believe you, Chris. I'm just saying it makes me mad if they're manipulating the race that way.
I mean, I don't know. It just seems
it didn't work.
It didn't work.
It
No,
didn't
it didn't work. It seems
But
awfully
the
strange.
whole
It
the
seems
whole
like they
thing
just
is it.
threw Riley Herbst in there just to kind of make it, not look so obvious.
Well, all
But
three of them.
yeah, but
Riley Herbst had an engine issue too.
and you just have to wonder if it wasn't that, then what was it really? Because Joe Gibbs come out today and said that they analyzed the motors and seen what the problem was, and those will not be issues coming up for this upcoming race. But you see all the mechanical issues that Denny Hamlin's had already. It's
That concerns me.
It's
That
very
concerns
concerning.
me.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very concerning that their championship hopes and bid could be shot down the
Contingent
drain
on a
based off of
part.
mechanical. Yeah, off of bad parts. Right.
Okay.
With
Jay,
that, I had one thing because you were talking about Bell of how he would have won under the old points. Again, I already said I think that's a meaningless conversation because you're going to race differently if the points are awarded differently. But Bell's situation a couple years ago when he had an axle or something break and he really didn't even get to contend for the race in the championship as the fourth driver. That's why I'm against the one race deal. If you have that engine part or something that's not of your doing, I get it. It happens. I understand that, but your whole season based on one issue with the axle on that particular day, that's why I'm not in favor of the one race winner take all. I understand that aspect. So I'm not saying he couldn't be champion, but just based on points because of previous point scoring, that I'm not buying.
okay. Are we ready to move on?
All right. What else we got here for tonight? Whoops.
That's simply 5.
Okay. Well, there's a couple things here. More silly season.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot to talk about there.
Yeah. There are quite a few things in the more silly season category. Do you want to start us off there, Jay?
All right. Well, you got Harrison Burton going to Sam Hunt Racing. I think everybody else is Daniel Suarez going to Spire, which we kind of expected. And then 2 returnees, Zane Smith going back to Front Row, as well as Jesse Love returning to Richard Childress Racing at in the Xfinity, or what will be the O'Reilly Auto Parts. Are there any others I missed? As far as drivers, I know that there's some crew chief.
Brandon McSwain, did we find out if that was speculation or
It
Brandon
has it up there. Right. That one has it up there on J-Ski as an article. Like I said, I heard from on an interview with Justin Marks, said no official announcements will be made until after Phoenix, was his statement. So he wasn't denying it, but he would not confirm it.
Tricon is extending their multi-year agreement with Toyota.
Okay, that was another one. That's what I said. I was making sure I hit the driver's side. Okay.
Ryan Ellis is not returning to DGM next season.
That was another one. Yep.
And then the other, I think all the Front Row Motorsports drivers are coming back, or
Yep, I think so. Yep.
And then Haas to Chevy in 26.
Yeah, that one's been out for a while. Okay.
Yeah.
As far as the drivers, the one thing I will say and I'm happy for Harrison Burton. I know when they said he wasn't coming back to AM Racing, I was a little concerned where he would go. I think that Sam Hunt Racing is a good fit. I have always said if they had somebody in there full time, they've been in that spot where Corey Heim and others have jumped in on a rotating basis and done really well. I think that with one driver, and I think Harrison Burton will be a good fit. We've seen what he's done with AM Racing this year.
And he's returning to Toyota again too with that move.
Now that's kind of a twist. Yeah, that's interesting aspect to it. He did seem to do better in Toyotas than anything else. So I do like that, and I look forward to that organization being a top contending organization with him as the driver. Daniel Suarez to Spire. I don't know if that changed. They talked about it a lot after this Martinsville race. Maybe he's not welcome at the team, or they were doing some hazing throughout the weekend. He had some run-ins with all the Spire Motorsports teams. Was kind of funny and ironic. when it comes to that. But there too, I think what they're building, I look forward to what Spire Motorsports is going through into the future. I will say that it's a wild way out there, but Kyle Busch, if he doesn't go back to RCR after this 1 year, still has kind of a working relationship with Spire, going over there as well. I don't know where that came from, but it is out there. The two of Zane Smith and Jesse Love. Again, where else are you going to go? Jesse Love in the championship battle this year in the Xfinity. Is he possibly ready to come up to Cup? He's not out there winning races every week. He's in contention, top 5, top 10, which is what got him into the championship 4. He's real close. So if it's another year in the Xfinity, we'll see. It's job security, if you will. And I think he's in a good spot with RCR in the Xfinity. However, just like everybody else, if you don't eventually move them up to Cup, they're going to look elsewhere.
Yeah.
And Zane Smith, again, I know we see flashes. We've seen the flash from Todd Gilliland as of late from Front Row. I don't know what piece they're missing. Maybe it's the distraction of the lawsuit, but that's my opinion. We'll turn it over to Chris before I go down that road. But I'm happy to see it. I like him in the Cup Series.
Yeah, so the greatest thing about silly season, the end of silly season, is the beginning of the next silly season. And there's going to be quite a few more movement. There's going to be more movement next season than I think that what we've seen this season. You have the potential of Denny Hamlin retiring. You have the Carson Hocevar, the elephant in the room. Who's this guy racing for? I mean, who is he? Is he trying to? Seems like he had a lot of issues with other Chevrolet drivers this year.
He had a message for Suarez too.
Right, and what's good? What's on the horizon for Dodge? Is it 2027? Is it 2028? That's going to be a landscape shifter as well. As for the movement that we've seen with Daniel Suarez, I believe I stated last week, that's a good place for him to be. Of course, Daniel's one of those lucky. Well, I wouldn't say lucky drivers. He's one of those drivers that benefit off of having somebody write a big check for him wherever he goes, and so money's not going to be an issue. It'll bring more opportunity, I think, for other drivers. Gangbridge is on this car most of the time. That will allow, with money coming into the organization, that'll allow that money to shift to other places, to other drivers. I think that Carson and Michael McDowell both had a pretty decent year. McDowell was competitive in several races. Spire got off to a slow start, but Carson Hocevar was competitive enough to get talked about at least every other race. If he wasn't, I think every other race we talked about how good he was running. The other races we were left to talk about what the heck was he thinking.
Hurricane.
Yeah, which look, Kyle Busch was the same way. Like, we would all at his talent one week, and the next week he would do some boneheaded, childish move and wreck a race car. And so, look, obviously Carson Hocevar has a whole lot of talent. The question is, does he have a seat at Hendrick, or will he be the next big free agent that goes over possibly to another team? Brett Keselowski is another driver that I think that could possibly call in a retirement after next year. That could leave an open seat there over at RFK. But Jesse Love, that's another elephant in the room. Is he Austin Dillon's replacement? Is that what RCR is waiting on? Is Austin Dillon going to continue to sit in a seat, which, I mean, the guy's got 2 wins in 2 years. I guess by his standards, he shouldn't go anywhere, but there's no room at RCR unless Kyle Busch goes somewhere. And then that could lead to maybe Kyle Busch going to Spire at 2027 and Carson Hocevar going somewhere else. I don't know. That's what I love about silly season. It gets real silly and crazy. And there's all kind of speculations, all kind of rumors, and all kinds of theories that could happen. It's been a really boring, kind of nonchalant, silly season. I think a lot of that, the player movement, has been hindered because of what's been going on with these lawsuits. Everybody basically, it's a game of musical chairs, and they wanted to make sure that they had one this year, going into next year. It is. It's an eye opener to know that they've already come out and both on Hamlin's side and on 2311 side and Front Row Motorsports and guaranteed these drivers a ride for next year, not knowing if they're going to have a charter or not. So I think that's a big time move there. Basically, these race teams have competed all year long except for the first part of the season as non-charter drivers, which obviously means they're not getting anywhere near the purse money that they were originally supposed to get. So to be able to commit to these drivers in their contracts for 2026 in this court case still looming over us is really it's crazy, especially when you know that they're basically suing because they say they can't sustain the business side of it. So you've actually heard it from me for the first time. I've contradicted myself all year long by saying, wait a minute, these guys are guaranteeing themselves to have open doors next season and race when supposedly the whole idea that they're suing NASCAR for is because the business side of it doesn't make sense. So I think that, as I said, pertaining to silly season, that's been the big elephant in the room with 2311 and Front Row Motorsports. And I think other guys were kind of gun shy or just trying to stay where they are. It is very interesting that the Spire Motorsports with Kyle Busch keeps coming up. Where there's smoke, there's fire. There's obviously been some real conversation with that. It's not Kyle Busch leaving RCR. It's Kyle Busch joining Spire. That's the rumor. That's the thing that it keeps circling back to. Not that Kyle Busch wants to become a free agent and wants to leave RCR, but there's some kind of connection to Spire Motorsports. So I don't know, man.
Spire started from Kyle Busch Motorsports, didn't it?
Yeah, that's who bought out KBM.
Kyle Busch Motorsports assets.
So that's where the relationship stems from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Look, hey, I'm here to learn too. That's awesome. Yeah, that's all I got for silly season though.
Okay. Suarez to Spire is going to be interesting. I really wonder about that because Hocevar and Suarez are not friends on the track. There's been a few incidences there, and I think that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. It makes me wonder if Hocevar is going somewhere else, but we'll see what happens. Harrison Burton to Sam Hunt. Yeah, it's good to see him making that change, moving back to Toyota. I think he was well suited at Toyota. He had success with Toyota, so I'm glad to see him going back there. Dean Thompson is going to be his teammate at Sam Hunt Racing, so that's a good thing. I don't know yet about the McSwain to Ross Chastain thing, since that's been disputed by the team owner. Jesse Love going.
Cannot confirm or deny after Phoenix. That's after Phoenix.
That one is part of the silly season rumor mill. Jesse Love returning to RCR in 26 in the Xfinity series. I think that's a good move. I think he could probably be a strong contender for the championship again next season. So I like that he's going to be there. Tricon staying with Toyota, no big surprise. I think that's a good move for them there. Ryan Ellis not returning to DGM next season. It makes me wonder if he's going to be with a different team or if he's going to bow out of racing. I'm not sure. All of the drivers staying at Front Row Motorsports. I like that. And Haas moving to Chevy just speaks to what we were talking about with Ford earlier. The Ford development program's not there, and these guys are moving over to Chevy for the next season. It means that there's that many less Fords that are going to be out there racing next season. Then we've got Dodge coming in at some point, probably in 27. Yeah, 26 in the truck series, and 27 possibly in the Cup Series. So that's going to narrow it down even more. So, but it'll be interesting to see how they do in the Truck Series this next season. I think it's all interesting moves, especially the Suarez to Spire. I think that's going to be really interesting with Hocevar and Suarez becoming teammates after such a volatile season this season.
I think I'm sorry, were you done there, Sharon?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, I didn't want to cut you off. A couple of connections there. I'll start with the, you mentioned Haas factory team leaving Ford. And I don't blame them, because I'm sure they felt like, hey, Ford, you're not putting anything into the Xfinity series. So, we're the last, and you weren't even putting anything into us. That's my opinion of where they would be. And you can't deny that it hasn't been a priority to Ford.
So that means no Fords in Xfinity next season.
Again, I know Brad Keselowski has talked about wanting to build something. I thought maybe that's where it would be, was with the Haas factory, but yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. But Ford needs to do something. The other one, the connection, and you see my face light up. You're talking about Dodge. Colleague Racing announced that they were separating from RCR on the Cup side. I think they are preparing to be the Dodge team in the Cup Series as well down the road. How long that takes, I don't know. And that's one we did leave off the list. I know we had already talked about it. It was announced last week, but at this point, the face of Dodge and the trucks is Brendan Queen, Butterbean. And again, to see him move, I think he did a great showing over the weekend, as did Brent Cruz. I know I was a little hard on him the week before. I had to eat that. You definitely know they're there racing and doing a good job. So the future looks bright as far as that. But yeah, I'm excited about Brendan Queen with Dodge, and I hope that is the flagship driver all the way down the road, on into the Cup Series or Xfinity if they get involved. We'll have to wait and see. But that was a connection I kind of forgot about with Colleague Racing stepping away from RCR. But yeah, everything else, the Hocevar Suarez thing, I know there's obviously, like I said, this weekend, there was a whole lot going on. I'm sure at the time they weren't thinking, hey, I'm going to show you're coming into my team. That kind of popped in my head, but I'm like, no, at that rate, again, I'm racing hard. Okay, I ran into somebody. Who was it? You know what I mean? I don't think it was anything intentional, or just seemed coincidental, if you ask me. But it was funny, and they made a kind of a storyline out of it.
Chris?
Yeah, I think any year where you have an off year for a silly season just creates something on down the road. Next year is going to be a true movement of personnel. I don't know all of the free agents that are going to be rolling in, but I would suspect that Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace are both maybe possibly on that list of free agents for next season.
You got to wait and see. Yep.
Keselowski, of course, Priest. What's going to happen at Keselowski? Roush Keselowski with the loss of one of the charters that will.
But they got that for one more year. But they got that for one more year.
But as I said, when you have one silly season end, that's the beginning of the next one. And so I don't really have much to say about the movement that's going on this year, but it is preemptive to go ahead and lay on the table what we're facing with next season, with the potential of Dodge, the potential of NASCAR approving 3 more charters. That's a possibility, going from 36 to 39 or 40 charters. Right? Isn't that why they held charters, was to disperse them in case a new manufacturer comes in? So then
supposedly,
that would mean that you're having up to 4 to 5 open seats that are going to be created if Dodge comes in or decides to come in 2027. I would believe that Colleague Racing probably would have 3.
Wouldn't it be interesting if 23 and 3 more switch over to Dodge?
Right. So
Just
there could
Wow.
possibly be a brand new. It could be a manufacturing team. I don't know. What if Dodge created their own manufacturing team, like they're basically doing with Colleague now?
Mhm.
That's going to be something to keep your eye on. 2311 could look very different going into the 2027 season than it does look in the 2026 season. So I do expect Tyler Reddick to take the seat of Denny Hamlin when Denny Hamlin decides to retire. I don't foresee Tyler staying at the satellite team. I think that he's probably gonna get a promotion. Corey Haim is going to be a big question. Who's going to
That's
go into
yeah.
that legacy
Where's
car in 2027? Where that extra charter's coming from? And since I did bring up legacy, how about legacy? Like, I think most of us wrote them off when Jimmy Johnson
they've been up
first kind of
there?
created this team. But now all of a sudden it looks like the pattern is heading well. It looks like Legacy Motor Club is heading in the right direction and building for the future as well. So all those things make 2026 really exciting to get into, so that some of these dominoes pieces can start falling and seeing really what the landscape's going to look like. Sure, 2026 may be everybody's with the same teams except for a couple of movements, but I really believe that we're going to roll into one of the most biggest player movements that we've seen possibly since the old Dale Jr. to Hendrick Motorsports and Kyle Busch to Joe Gibbs Racing. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope y'all are too.
It's going to be interesting, no doubt about it. Okay, are we done with this one, or can we move on?
Yeah.
No, I see what we have to move on to, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Hold on, I've lost it. Yeah, it's not
He's
good.
not my favorite driver, but we got to talk about him. It's not my favorite thing, but I know we got to talk about it.
Yeah, no resolution from the settlement conferences that took place. Was that this week or last week?
No, it was just, well, yeah, last week, because it was what, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then into
Tuesday,
Thursday.
Wednesday. No resolution. So once again, they tried to sit at the table, and the way Denny Hamlin put it was first day was okay, second day was not okay. And so it really didn't go it didn't go anywhere. No resolution on the settlement conference. Were we kind of expecting that? I kind of think I was.
Yeah, both sides appear to be
Heels dug in.
standing fast and willing to go to trial. I want to correct you, Sharon. There was a resolution. They agreed to not name call and whatever else at the trial.
Yeah. Well, that's another motion that was put out there.
Right.
There were agreements. Yeah.
Oh, that was under the motions part of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did this accomplish anything? It didn't appear so. Of that. So again, I feel like it's just wasting everybody's time and money. I said this from the beginning. I didn't think that. I know, Sharon, you said there was that hope of a late minute last hour agreement.
Hour.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like it. Neither side wanted to comment after day one. Some more things came out after day two, and like I said, basically it sounded like, hey, we're going to trial. We're just gonna play nicer about how we go about it. That was all I got out of it.
Yeah. That is kind of what I got out of it too. Chris, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I believe we did make a lot of headway. It's just not being talked about. And I think that we're closer than ever to resolution. I think that there's still, look, most of the time in negotiation, once you get certain things figured out, you set that aside and you say, okay, we've got this figured, but this is the next part of the issues that we've got to handle. Once you've taken care of one step, it's go to the second step. The first step was NASCAR did agree that, from my understanding, that charters could be permanent, but there was going to be the money issue would be decided with the TV revenue. So that would be separate. So if that's the case, then the true issue that's still in this lawsuit is, this is by speculation and my personal opinion, is things are held up because that was figured out, but there's still NASCAR doesn't ever want to be put in this position again. You see, with Tim Richmond, they were quick to win. With Jeremy Mayfield, they were quick to win, and the defamatory lawsuit or whatever with the lady who claimed that NASCAR was racist toward her or whatever, they made that disappear quickly. This has been none of those people had the money that it took to really sue NASCAR. Michael Jordan has proved exactly what he stated in the beginning. He's got the money to go the extra mile. I believe that 2311 and Fan4Racing Motorsports do not want to give up the right to sue you. And that's something that NASCAR's got to make sure that they're never put into this situation again, because this has gone further than any other lawsuit ever. It is exposing things in the closet that NASCAR would have never wanted the public eye to see. There's a reason why NASCAR went private a few years ago, and that was to kind of keep personal business out of the public, and they don't want to be exposed. And so 2311 Fan4Racing Motorsports obviously still has something in this lawsuit that they're hung up on, and NASCAR's like, look, if that's where we're at, then this is where we're going to go to. I still do not believe we're going to make it to trial. I don't. I think that this is NASCAR saying, look, we told y'all you're going to keep your charters and they'll be permanent, and we're just going to have to negotiate. But now 2311 Fan4Racing Motorsports wants to push it even further and get more out of it. That's always what holds. That's what makes divorces last 2 years. That's what keeps settlements in the courts for 10 years. There's settlements right now from lawsuits from 10 years ago that are still being held in court somewhere, right? So those are things that are going to be worked out. I think that we're close to resolution here. I think once we heard that the charter thing was kind of figured out already, that kind of was a sigh of relief for me that, hey, we're gonna get there. I don't see this going to trial. I don't think either side wants it to go to trial. As I said earlier, the exposed part of all this is 2311 and Fan4Racing Motorsports have not put a for sale sign out on the front of their lawn. So that means that they do have enough collateral and enough money to make it another season after not really receiving the amount of money that they were expecting this season. So that kind of may hurt them in the end. But the quicker the resolution, the quicker these guys can decide what is right and what is wrong, and get it on paper and get this thing over with, the better off our sport's going to be. It's just too much negativity, too much controversy, not controversy, too much, what's it called? Too many questions. It takes the groundwork, and it shifts it. Like it just makes it feel like we're at the IndyCar kart split, right? That's what this feels like. And that needs to go away. We need some certainty that NASCAR is going to be around, and that there's not going to be a split in the series. And that landscape has got to come together pretty quick here.
Chris, I'm not trying to be confrontational here. I just want to be able to read about it if it's out there. What is your resource for the fact that NASCAR's made the concession on permanent charters?
I'm not saying that they've made a concession. I said that the rumors were coming out is that basically that part had been decided. It was reported through Twitter. It was reported through NASCAR radio. I mean, my understanding was the good news coming out of the Monday meeting was that part got figured out.
And I haven't seen that anywhere.
Me neither.
So I'm wondering what your resource for that is.
Okay. Well, I'll dig it up. That's fine.
Well, and that's why.
I've questioned my resources before, and as always, I'll produce what I.
Okay.
I've heard. So
Because
I've never,
that's
I've
what
never
my
said anything that I couldn't produce. So let's just put it.
Because I just kind of was doing some research on it, and everything that came up was that there's been no concession. None.
Well, of course not, because the lawsuit's still going on. But my understanding was that part of it, NASCAR was willing to give in. Hold on, I'll find it. Hold on, just give me. Go
Okay.
ahead. Put your
Thank
insight
you.
in there.
I just want to read about it if it's out there, because I haven't seen anything
Well,
on it.
that's fine and dandy, but I don't ask y'all all the time to produce what y'all do, because that's basically saying that I'm just sitting here making crap up,
No,
and that pisses me
I'm
off. It really does. Like
I'm not
I don't
trying
say
to.
anything that I haven't heard that's come from a good source, right? I've been questioned all year long about that, and I continue to produce what I'm being questioned about, and so that just makes me feel like I'm not the smartest guy in the room, right? I just sit here and make up
No,
crap. That's not what I do. You didn't want to
no.
be confrontational, but you also wanted to question the
I
integrity of
wanted
my
to
thoughts
read
and
about
words.
it.
That's fine, and I'm gonna
Okay.
submit that. So give me a
Okay.
minute.
Jay?
Well, yeah, no, I was curious too, because like I said, from what I had heard, that was still the one sticking point
Me
of
too.
that. The one thing I'll give you credit for, Chris, of you obviously appear to be more optimistic. I consider myself a pretty optimistic and positive guy. Both of them said, hey, we've agreed what we're going to do when we go to trial. I mean, that to me is where it said, hey, we are going to trial. So no, I don't see a resolution coming. What I fear is what the judge has said all along: no matter which way it gets ruled, there isn't going to be a winner. And that's where I feel all along. And I feel like some of the other teams coming forward now have said, hey, you say you're fighting for all of us, but we don't feel like you are. You're hurting us. When it comes to signing drivers or the negotiations of what they're trying to do, it is impacted and affected by what's possibly going to happen. Talk about these teams that are re-signing drivers. Well, if the charter system has to go away or whatever, that affects then what they're trying to do here and now. So I think it is going to trial. I don't know the outcome. I don't see a good outcome of it either way. Do I want to see 2311 go away and not be a part of NASCAR? No, I do not. I think you mentioned it. One of them had a shot at, or two of them did, Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace, having the shot at it. I think they are a team that was on the rise. We've talked about how organizations are built. Joe Gibbs Racing, Hendrick Motorsports. 2311 became one of those within 5 years, winning races, going for championships. So no, I absolutely do not want to see them go away. Sharon threw a curveball out there saying they might be the Dodge team. Yeah, I don't see that happening, but
That was just a thought that passed through my head.
and it hurt. That one hurt. Be like, you said Dodge, and I went, yay. And you said 2311. I went, oh, no. I don't
was
see
just
that.
thinking about the charters. Wouldn't it be ironic if the charters went to?
Yeah, if they were to lose the lawsuit and then have to go that route, that's the only way I see it. I mean, think about it, of the partnership they've had with Toyota. That is what Toyota chose to expand to, rather than just the 4 Joe Gibbs Racing and then 1 or 2 teams here and there. They did go full bore to another organization and got up to 7 cars. So, yeah, I'm all about that. I don't want to see anybody have to leave the sport. Like what happened with Chip Ganassi Racing, man, that hurt. I understand Trackhouse has been great and built a good thing, but yeah, that hurt. And then again, going back, they were a Dodge team at one time, which is why I was a fan. But yeah, I'm trying to find the positive and not be on the negative side. And that was something the morning drive of Pete Pistone and Mike Bagley both said. We see where NASCAR fans are, in my words, tired of this. I said it last week. I'm just tired of it. And even those two were saying, can we talk about something else? Why aren't we talking about the racing and the championship? We're talking about the lawsuit.
Yeah, you've got a lot of people wanting this to be over. That is the truth. The team owners are wanting it to be over because it's hurting them as well. Um, everybody is wanting this to be over, and I'm getting weary of it myself. I just think that Denny Hamlin made some comments saying that he thinks, one side or the other is on a suicide mission because it's going to hurt somebody before this is all said and done. And the thing that bothers me is it's going to hurt the fans. It's going to hurt everybody. It's not just somebody that's going to be hurt. I think when it all gets said and done, whatever it is, a lot of people are going to be hurt. And that makes me really sad because I think it was unnecessary. I really feel that it was unnecessary. So we're spending a lot of money on something that didn't need to happen, in my mind. So, Chris, if you find it, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. You did say it was speculation. It was a rumor, right?
Yes, but it's been discussed by Jeff Gluck and them. I just basically found part of the tweet. I guess it means they didn't reach a settlement court hearing tomorrow for the summary judgments. And one of the comments was that making charters permanent can be done independent of media rights agreement. Can you explain why that would negatively affect NASCAR in any way? So that was somewhere, the way it's described, NASCAR would have the overall authority to issue or revoke charters, but teams would possess them forever unless that happened without needing a new deal like negotiations that led to this. So I just haven't found the exact spot where that was discussed, but I have found Twitter evidence, X evidence of that being a discussion as what I just read to you. So
yeah,
somewhere,
I'm sure it's an ongoing discussion.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Most of the time in these negotiations where it's several things on the table, once something is decided on, it doesn't end the lawsuit. It just says, okay, we've crossed this bridge. It's similar to jury duty, right? When you've got multiple charges that's on somebody, right? So
Right.
you're delegating in a jury, and all of a sudden this guy's got 4 charges. One of them's manslaughter, one of them is blah blah and blah 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 blah. Well, you've already got one of those charges figured out. Like he's guaranteed
Right.
that this is that this was murder. Now, is it first degree or is it second degree? That's where we have to figure out. So my understanding of what come out of Monday's settlement hearing was NASCAR is open. This is speculative that NASCAR is open to allow full possession of these charters to the teams with certain guidelines that are basically based off of the media deal being separate from the charters. That was my understanding based off of money. So come Tuesday, I was expecting or Tuesday or Wednesday. It may have been Wednesday. I was expecting like really good news to come out, and then all of a sudden it flushed right down the toilet. But typically, as I said, in this situation of negotiation, once you've figured this one out, this is no longer the issue. But the court case is still like all that could change if we go to court. But if you're able to negotiate, the first, 1, 2, 3, one's already figured out. Let's go to 2. Now, what also can happen is they can renege and say, okay, well, this is not. We want to change our position on this, and that can set back negotiations for a while. I think that a lot of this is still based off of they do not want to give up the right to sue, and NASCAR has been embarrassed in this lawsuit and never wants to be put in this position again. Rightfully so. If you're trying to protect your image, you don't want the types of things. That whole did you ever catch the where Steve O'Donnell wrote Ben Kennedy the letter? You did catch up on that, right? That is the type of stuff that you never want the public to see. That was a personal message of business partners trying to protect their business, their best interest in their business. That is not something when when I'm talking to somebody privately about what I think helps dirt track racing or what can benefit, I don't want what I'm saying made into public view, because some people may not understand where I'm coming from when you're sitting with people at the table that really do make things happen in the racing business. So, I mean, I completely understand that side of it from NASCAR, that they don't want to be exposed ever again for some of the things that should have been kept in private.
But that goes both ways, and that's what that part of the, I guess, as Sharon said, that's in the secondary filing motion filed. They've agreed to not go that route. And again, why Brian France's name even came up, of who threw that out there,
I saw that and I was like,
how that all even got tied in, no clue. But that was the one agreement they did have, of no more of this mudslinging, personal attacks. I'm trying to think. I can't find it.
Here, I've got it.
Okay, read that, Sharon, please.
The stipulations are agreed to by all parties include, number one, the parties will not make any ad hominem personal attacks or otherwise denigrate counsel at trial, including specifically through attacks on counsel's role in the litigation. Number two, the parties will not refer to or discuss prior cases where counsel for the parties served in opposition to one another, including but not limited to N.AM. Soccer League LLC versus United States Soccer Federation Incorporated, 1:17-CV and so on. That's irrelevant. Relevant Sports LLC versus United States Soccer Federation, and Shields et al. Versus Federation Internationale de Nation, case number, so on. Number three, the parties will not refer to allegations in the second sentence of paragraph 65 of plaintiff's amended complaint regarding former NASCAR executive Brian France or the alleged circumstances surrounding Brian France's departure from NASCAR. For the jury instructions, the verdict forms, the parties to have disagreement that are noted in the documents. And then they show the actual documents where all of that is outlined. But yeah, that's basically the stipulations agreed to.
I guess, yeah, and I don't follow it enough and dig deep enough or get involved in the social media aspect of, again, how they were tying or how it got tied back to Brian France. That totally caught me off guard. Where, what does that have to do with anything?
Well,
but
probably one of their arguments somewhere in the road.
Yeah,
here. Yeah.
But
right.
No, and I think, Chris mentioned some of the things that NASCAR had said and done. Well, 2311 had some of theirs come out as well. And I agree. But in this day and age, nothing is private. I mean, because if it's out there in the digital world, somebody somewhere can get a hold of it, or somebody wants their 5 minutes of fame, they release it. It could have been somebody from 2311 saying, hey, look what I found or know of, and get credit for bringing it out. Again, who's the winner? Where's the winner? I don't see it. I just don't.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hope they do come to a last minute resolution on this.
Well, I'll lean on y'all's hope, because I don't have any hope of my own for that.
I'm hoping for it. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. I think it would be better for the sport if it would. It'd be better for all parties involved, frankly.
I'm still hoping Jeff Gordon goes with Ray Evernham and Dodge.
Okay. That's a good one. Okay.
Maybe Jeff Gordon comes out of retirement to run a Dodge team. Let's throw some wild things out. What is it? Crazy idea Friday.
and Jay, I know you added another one at the last minute. We already kind of gave our championship predictions. But what was the other one that you said we didn't have on here? Did we already discuss it?
I don't remember because I didn't actually type it in. I know I said we could tie it in. Now I'm trying to think. I don't know. My brain shut down.
Yeah,
We hit this discussion, and yeah, my brain just tends to shut down. No, I think it was something that did tie into one of the other topics because I said it could fall under. I think it was under the silly season. Oh, it was the crew chief of Ross Chastain because I had just heard that interview from Justin Marks on my way home. That's where it was.
I know
it was
what
a crew chief ones. What's that?
It was about the potential playoff changes.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so and again, this came from Reddit side. It was the NASCAR Reddit, and I'm not a big Reddit component fan, whatever. So, but it quoted Jordan Bianchi as saying NASCAR was down to 3 options. Whether this is true or not, I do not know. NASCAR Reddit credited it to Jordan Bianchi, and I didn't get a chance to look on Bianchi's timeline. But the 3 options are the 36 points race, 36 season-long points battle, going back to a 10-race chase. Now, again, all details on how many drivers, all that, don't know. And then a 3-3-4, which seems to be the biggest compromise to try and get everybody what they want. I think the 10-race chase also does, because you have the regular season, you get your seeding from that, and then you have 10 races. I would be okay with it being the 3-3-4. You still have a couple of elimination races, but you don't have it all riding on one race. So that's where I fall on that. We've had that discussion. But like I said, that was NASCAR Reddit saying it came from Jordan Bianchi. I have not confirmed that. And I don't have Twitter on. I'd have to use my phone, which I'm using to be on video, so I can't. Where'd All Sports All Day go? He can look it up.
Well, yeah, I did a search on it, and the search came up with key potential changes for 2026. The 4-race final round, the biggest rumored change, is expanding the final round from a single championship race to 4 races. Also, another option, fewer drivers eliminated. This would mean more drivers would advance to the championship, with some reports suggesting 6 drivers could compete in the final 4-race round. Shifting away is another bullet point. Shifting away from win and in, there is a strong
that was the other
possibility
aspect
of moving away from the win and in system, which guarantees a playoff spot to any driver who wins a regular season race, even if they are not in the top 16 in points. The next bullet point is rewarding consistent performance. Some discussions suggest a format where drivers could retain points earned during the playoffs, which would reward those who have strong performances across multiple rounds. And then the next bullet point, maintaining the 16-driver field. While the overall format could change, the 16-driver field entering the playoffs is expected to continue. So that was kind of interesting to see that. The reasons for the change was driver feedback, fan and industry opinions, and marketability and star power. So it's nothing's been decided yet, but they are looking at the potential of a lot of different things. I've also heard having the 10 race. Was that you, Jay?
The chase, yeah. That's what the 10 race chase. That was the in between, the transition from the old to what we have now was the chase. And I was okay with that. I thought we obviously had one great situation with Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards, so I'd be okay with that as well.
I think the main changes in that 4 race for the championship, and I do feel like we do have the full season points with the regular season champion. We crown a regular season champion. NASCAR needs to make that more prestigious, I think, so that fans get the feeling that full season champion is still being crowned. And I think having the playoff format, it's the best of both worlds, if you will. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, this is the one thing that I got an AI overview. It says NASCAR is reportedly open to compromise that could involve granting permanent charters, but it's hesitant to give up its flexibility and control over media rights. Teams are pushing for permanent charters, which would provide them with long-term financial security, while NASCAR wants to maintain some control for future media deals. A potential solution is to make charters permanent, but keep media rights tied to a separate deal. Now, the problem with AI overview is it's giving me the information that I was trying to explain to y'all, but it has yet to give me the actual source.
Source, yeah.
So, as in this digital age of media, researching is sometimes really so much easier than what it would have been 20 years ago. I have legitimate proof here that NASCAR has been open to the idea of permanent charter. My next endeavor is finding where AI overview found that reported source from, and I think that that's going to that's it makes me feel better that I didn't just dream this up and make it up, but but finding the source of even where the AI overview is from. Obviously, it's something that was being discussed in the courtroom that's been leaked, and I'm not sure that there is a source. So I will continue
Okay.
to find where that source may be, but I do have on my side that AI overview said NASCAR is reportedly open to compromise that could involve granting permanent charters.
You know
So
what's
that in itself
interesting?
makes me feel better that I know I wasn't just hearing things when I was under the
How,
optimism that we were close to settlement.
how did you ask the question? Because I just asked the question of AI, is NASCAR open to permanent charters? And the response that came back is no. NASCAR has not agreed to permanent charters, but the ongoing lawsuit between some teams and the organizations has brought the issue to a head. NASCAR offered a 7-year extension with 7-year option, but refused to make charters permanent, leading to litigation from teams like 2311 and Front Row Motorsports, who are seeking a permanent charter and better financial terms. So I don't know. How did you ask the question? Because I asked the question straightforward like that. And the answer I got was
I
no.
said NASCAR open to permanent charters. That's what I
That's
asked.
exactly what I asked.
And you got a different AI overview than me.
And I got a different answer. Yeah.
Look,
Can I give mine?
I just
Yeah, I
shared
see
it
it.
to the group there, so I feel vindicated.
Can
I'm
I
serious,
point?
y'all question me like I just make stuff up, and I don't like that.
Well,
If
and
y'all
in
Can
all
can't
I?
trust
fairness,
me, then
I'll send you my
I don't need to be on
screenshot.
the show. I mean,
What?
that's just if y'all. I'm used to being able to speak my mind freely, and I'm used to being on the cusp of saying what I've heard and what's been talked about. And I've never been questioned by anybody of whether or not I'm just making it up out of the sky. I
The only
love this
reason
sport
I asked
passionately.
Chris
I love this
is
sport
so that I could
passionately.
read what you're reading. That's all I was asking.
And I hear and see things all the time that I'm so involved. Like I over uh uh saturate myself in racing, and so there's a lot of things that I read and see, and I don't really just like glue to it and search it. But when you spend all day long every day reading articles and hearing things on Sirius XM,
I
and
know.
you're just put on the spot to like, hey, where did this come from? So I'm still trying to figure out where it comes from. I believe it was something discussed on Break Card. I think that that's where, honestly, my first optimistic idea that this was coming close to an end was because I believe it was reported by Break Card that basically that side of the negotiation, if NASCAR was open to granting permanent charters just outside of a media agreement deal. That's as I shared you there. So we'll try to find
It's just
that.
funny that we both typed in the same thing and got two different answers.
Yeah, no, that makes you not trust AI. Yes, Jay.
That's where Sharon just hit it on the head. That's where the problem comes in. You're trusting AI. No, and I'm going to be totally facetious and wild here, but tomorrow, if somebody reports that they heard it discussed that 2311 was going to Dodge, Was it discussed? Yeah, absolutely, it was discussed. Is there any merit to it? Absolutely not. You know, if you take some of the examples of what got brought out in the court, and I don't remember which one said it to who, made the comment of the sport would be better off if so-and-so were dead. Is that a death threat? Did somebody threaten to kill somebody? You can interpret it that way, but that's not what happened. They made an offhand comment that as a joke or frustration, you know, and I go back to, I know, Sharon, you don't like political, but President Trump, oh, I'm going to kill this person. We've all said it. I'm mad at this person. I'm going to kill this person. Is that a death threat? No. You know, I mean, come on now. And that's where I think that gets in. And AI picks up on any little thing, pieces it's found, and puts together its own overview, as you're calling it. But that's all Sharon was asking is, where's the substantial credit to it actually happening or whatever?
Hey, I got something deeper.
Right.
This is AI overview. I asked it who reported that NASCAR was open to permanent charters, and it gave me a source. It said ESPN reported that NASCAR stated in a court filing that Michael Jordan's lawsuit was an attempt to enforce a permanent charter, but also stated that NASCAR was open to permanent charters in the sense that they were the subject of negotiations between NASCAR and the teams. The lawsuit was filed, but that doesn't really is reported on that NASCAR argued the court that Jordan lawsuit was an attempt. I don't know. All of it's wishy washy, but I guess ESPN was the original one that
has that discussion happened? Yes. I mean, that again, that goes back to one of the core things that 2311 has been arguing for the whole time. I don't know that I've ever seen anything of NASCAR, because that was the one, their standing point. We gave you 7 out of the 8, that 8th being. I hadn't heard or seen anything of NASCAR was even giving on that. I feel like that's their side of it. If that's your whole motion, we're going to go to trial because we're not giving on that.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
I think they're not going to give up on the right to sue and all this other.
And you're right. That's a secondary one of the whole. I agree with that.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's always chatter that's kind of hard to track down where that source come from. Man, who knows? Maybe it was just something made up by somebody to try to bond the negotiation a little bit closer, just to get that out there. But I didn't see where Bob Pockris or Jeff Gluck was the one that made the reports. But obviously, you know, it come from somewhere. It wouldn't be discussed.
Yeah, I just asked, has anyone reported it? And it says no. So I don't know. It's really strange.
Yeah, that is strange. It is. Like I'm questioning now AI because it told me what I wanted to hear.
And see, that's, man. Sharon, what did I say before we came online when I first logged in? Technology.
I mean, that's
technology.
That's the basis of searching.
Well, that's because you don't know how to use technology.
Yeah,
now that's what you said. That's not what I said. And I don't deny that.
And I'm not. Yeah, it's just, you know, you got to look at the technology you have and how you use it.
I just recently watched iRobot again. I'm afraid to use it. It's going to turn on me.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. Anyway, it's just really strange that we're getting completely different answers. But I'll check ESPN too and see if I can find it there. It didn't give you a date or anything, I don't suppose, but I can keep searching myself. Anyway, I just wanted to read it. If NASCAR was open to that. I wanted to understand why they changed their position.
Yeah, well, me too. I want to see
Okay.
this thing come to an end. That's for sure, because these arguments are getting
I
very
think we
old.
all agree on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Be done. Be done.
we're done with
So
that.
what is the perfect resolution? What is the perfect resolution? If you were the judge, let's go here and then be done with it. If you were the judge, how
Well,
would you handle this?
the judge has to do what none of us can do. And that is, he has to look at it from that legal perspective. And none of us are lawyers that can look at it that way. That's why we're waiting to find out. Jay, you said you had a way to salute.
I want to, from my perspective of what the other team owners did, the team owners that did not participate in the lawsuit said, yeah, they too would like to see that, but for now they got to take what they got, which was better than what they had, and work together towards the future and not against NASCAR, because NASCAR, that's how I see it. Again, can the permanent thing happen down the road? Do all the teams want it? Yeah. I mean, and none of them have disputed that. None of them have disputed, did we get everything we wanted? No. But we got better than we had, and we're progressing forward. And we want to continue to work with NASCAR instead of against them. Work with me, not against me. And I think that's what the judge was trying to say. Hey, y'all work this out amongst yourselves, because if it comes to me or a trial, it's going to be ugly. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose, and everybody's going to lose.
And you can't assume one way or the other. Chris?
Yeah, if I was the judge, I think y'all know, I would side on the side of 2311. I think the NASCAR has way too much control. I think that they are a monopoly. I think that the moment that NASCAR went private and has threatened to basically just take over SMI, that's cause of concern. And the permanent charters, I've never understood how you can expect me to think that there's value in something that can be taken away at a drop of a hat without any rhyme or reason. I know that if I own the Los Angeles Clippers, that I can be forced out of the league, but I have to be bought out, and it has to make sense. It can't just be given away. And I think that that's all these teams are asking for, is if we're going to pay $150 million for charters, then I want to make sure that that charter is mine, because how do I get a bank to loan me $150 million if the bank doesn't trust that that charter is significant enough to loan you $150 million? In other words, what bank is going to trust you to give that money when NASCAR can come in and revoke it for, lack of performance or lawsuits or anything like that? So I do think that there are legitimate causes for this lawsuit. And I've seen, the NFL sued. I've seen, Donald Trump won a lawsuit with the USFL, but he was only awarded $1 for winning a lawsuit. So the judge really just laughed it off. But it did change the landscape of NFL, and it changed some things that. If anybody wants to say that there's a monopoly right now, it would have to be NFL. They're a monopoly on the entire sports world. They just made us move the Daytona 500 a week because they're going to take over the holiday weekend that we had the Daytona 500. So if I was the judge, I would grant 2311 from our Motorsports what they're requesting here. I don't think that they're out of bounds for that. The issue with the other teams that were in response to wanting to keep the charters, I think a lot of people took that was on the side of NASCAR. I took it the exact opposite side, that they were silently in favor of the permanent charter system because of the value that it adds to their race teams and the uncertainty that if 2311 and Front Row Motorsports did win this lawsuit, that those charters could basically disappear. And some of these teams owe a lot of money to the bank for these charters. that hasn't been completely paid for yet. So I think that to agree to disagree, I would rule in favor of 2311 and Front Row.
But that's one of the things. If you go to that of 2311 wins, NASCAR's a monopoly. You have to break the monopoly and the trust. That is one of the things then they can do to say we're not a monopoly. There are no more charters. That's where the teams are saying, hey, you're putting us at risk by saying you're fighting for us. And the other thing, and I don't know the legal terms, when you were talking about the NFL, and I'm going from a business side, my dad was a Matco dealer. He had a 7-year franchise deal, but yeah, he didn't meet certain requirements. And after that 7 years, they took the franchise from him. He could no longer be a licensed whatever representative as a franchise because he didn't meet certain requirements. You know, any franchise, that can still happen if you're not, or you franchise, and I just had this with Subway, it's about buying black or having black olives. You know, if you're a franchise, you're supposed to do it the way the franchise wants. And that has provide black olives. The one here in Columbus, won't point out which one, you know, it wasn't, you know, but they should be because that's under the franchise agreement. You will provide these items on your menu our way. You're agreeing to sell our product, sell it our way. That's part of the agreement.
Yeah, and it makes sense to me for it to be that way.
Can I share the NFL, UFL, USFL breakdown basically of what the lawsuit was about?
The NFL, their lawsuit or NASCAR's lawsuit?
No, the NFL and USFL lawsuit, antitrust lawsuit back in 1984.
Wait, is this one of the ones the lawyers were involved in and we're not allowed to talk about because it was agreed in this file? Go ahead. I just sorry.
So in October of 1984, the USFL filed a lawsuit against NFL and its team seeking about $1.32 billion in damages, plus an injunction relief under Sections 1 and 2 of the Sherman Antitrust Act. The USFL alleged that the NFL illegally maintained a monopoly in professional football via contracts with networks, stadium access, player contracts, scheduling, and media relations. The case was formally captioned United States Football League versus National Football League. The trial ran for 11 weeks in the summer of 1986. The jury found that the NFL had willfully acquired or maintained monopoly power in the professional football business. However, the jury rejected some of the core claims made by USFL, notably the claim that the NFL had denied the USFL a national television contract. Importantly, although USFL won on the monopoly count, the jury awarded only $1 in damages, which is under the treatable damages rules of the antitrust law. The small damages awarded is often explained by the jury's view that the USFL's own strategic decisions contributed heavily to its problems. So basically, the judge, this is a similar situation where the judge says, yeah, y'all are both going to lose. and the NFL lost, and so did the USFL.
That's right.
The case is often cited in discussion on how difficult it is for a challenger league to displace an entrenched league, even when there may be monopolistic behavior. So, I mean, this is 2025. It doesn't seem like much has changed since 1984 on language of what constitutes a monopoly in the sporting world. And let me tell you something. There's so many lawsuits with sports in the court systems every day, all year for the past 50 years. So this is nothing new for the court system to handle these types of situations.
I go back to where's the win of, and I think of both racing, and again, I'm not even an IndyCar fan, but you mentioned it earlier, the IndyCar kart split, how that went, how it damaged the sport, the fans, and what it's taken to get back. And then I think about, it wasn't the lawsuit itself, but the NFL, even with the player strike, when they went on strike and whatnot, I mean, how that damaged them and what they got to do to recover. And I just don't want to see that happen with NASCAR.
Yeah. You look at
To me, like
baseball.
NASCAR has really gone out of their way to include in making their decisions, they talk to drivers, teams, owners. They talk to the tracks. It seems to me like they get input from a variety of sources before making so many of their decisions. So
Yep.
it's not like it used to be. It used to be more so when we heard it's my way or the highway.
I know I've said that if they'd have brought this against Big Bill France, there might have been an issue then and there, because that was his mentality. And his answer would have been, I'll shut the whole thing down.
But let's agree that the state of NASCAR wouldn't be where it is today had that leadership sustained itself.
Absolutely
the reason
not.
why they don't want Brian France brought up in the lawsuit is because they know bad decisions were made when Brian France took over, which got us where we are today.
And here's where this is where, and I keep going back to this, 2311 wants more and more. They want their cake and eat it too. Look at where we are. We have the charter systems because NASCAR did say, hey, we understand your plight. We'll do this. When they started the charters, you know, I still think they should have found a different way to monetarily or otherwise reward these teams without doing the charters.
And it might come to that. I don't know.
All right. Well, I know it's about pumpkin time.
Might make that happen. We'll see what happens. And like you said, it's going to be a no-win situation for everybody involved. And that's why I pray that there is some kind of a resolution before in that 11th hour at the very least. Okay, I think we've covered everything at this point. Except we were talking about, we went to you, Chris, actually, we were talking about the playoff.
Yeah, the 3-3-4 playoff system. The three options that were supposedly the final three that NASCAR is looking at. But again, that is unfounded rumor.
Yeah. Do you have any?
So I don't. I think that's really cool. The suggestion is there for a 4-race, basically a 4-race championship bid. 4 guys, 4 races. I think that sounds good. I've heard up to 6 guys, but I don't know where I heard that from. So,
Okay.
I love y'all. I'm tired. I'm ready to go to bed.
Okay.
That's why I said it's pumpkin time. Yeah, it's
I
getting
think
there.
it is too. Okay, because I'm starting to get really quiet, and you know I'm tired when that happens. Okay. So let's go ahead and call this a night. Chris, we'll start off with you on the sign off.
Yeah, so man, what a week we had last week. Like we did Talladega, and then we did the Fall Classic, and we had 250 plus cars, and 3 days of just an amazing event. It's left us exhausted, but we got to turn around. We got to do it again. Not this coming weekend, but the next weekend, starting on Thursday, the 6th through the 8th. It's going to be the Crate Racing USA World Street Stock Championship. Yeah, so that's a pretty big event. Go check out Why Not Motorsports Park Facebook page for all the details for that. And we just found out tonight that the Pike County, the Jambalaya 100, is going to be filmed. It's going to have a broadcasting crew there as well. So we'll see how that plays out. But spilling a little leakage right there. Maybe I shouldn't have said it. I don't know. But so
it's just between us, Chris.
Yeah, right. So there's still a little bit of racing ahead for us in the future. So looking forward to that. You can find me on Chris Jellicoe Flag Creighton on Facebook and YouTube. And you can find me at Flag of Caution on Twitter and TikTok. And of course, I'm the voice of Why Not Motorsports Park. That got said a lot this weekend. That's kind of feels good. Like I've been there 14 years, and only now do I do I hear that and I'm like, wow, that's cool. Like, but yeah, and outside of that, one more show here next week, right? And
I
then we're
know
done.
it's going to be
Right?
over.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So had a full season over here at Fan4Racing. That's been fun. Thank you guys for the opportunity, and I'll pass it to you, Jay.
Well, I was going to ask. Actually, I had two questions, but one of them you may not be able to answer. Who it was that was picking up the streaming, but I don't know if that's been
I can't
public.
disclose
Okay.
that. No, I can't disclose that. But I can say that I talked to some higher ups, and it was agreed that we are going to look into the My Race Pass deal for the audio. And I'm not sure.
Okay.
If it's
I knew
gonna
you were
be
working on
turned-
that.
I don't know if the volume is going to be turned all the way up so that everybody can hear it, or if it's just going to be within range of the racetrack. But what it does do is it creates the opportunity, even if it's just for those that are there in a 3 mile radius, it gives them the opportunity to actually hear the full broadcast,
Right.
and not just what they can hear from the intercom system.
Have to sit. Well, yeah. Otherwise, they have to sit right under a speaker because otherwise you can't hear it.
Right, and so there's sections at a lot of racetracks where you can't hear anything from the announcer's stand.
Yeah, because
that's
of
very
the speakers.
exciting, and I'm looking forward to getting with my bosses and colleagues and making that happen for the 2026 race season.
I didn't even know that was a possibility that you could restrict it to where it was only within the 3 mile. I thought if it was on My Race Pass, it was whoever had access to it. But
No.
Again, that's a technology thing. So I do have some technology. I'm on Facebook. Mopar or Michael Hoosman on Facebook. Mopar MJ8 on Twitter and Instagram, or X and Instagram. Yeah, that's cool. And the other question I was going to ask, we saw him in the background earlier, if that was that Why Not kid that was wandering around your kitchen there, Chris. I know he had a busy weekend.
Yeah, I believe so. He had dish duty tonight, so that was probably him.
All right. Well, good job. I know I saw the one with Ashton Winger and David Brazil. I don't know if that's where the finger wave was you were talking about, but I saw that photo, and I'm a Brazil fan, so yeah.
Okay, I guess that leads up to me. I'm Fan4Racing Sharon. I'm on Fan4Racing site on Twitter, Fan4Racing blog and radio on Facebook, as well as on our website, fan4racing.com. Of course, we're Fan4Racing Radio here on YouTube, and I am looking forward to the weekend of racing at Phoenix Raceway. It's going to be great to see the season come to a conclusion. And I'm looking forward to our last broadcast on next Monday night here on Hot Topic Sound Off. And we'll see how, I know we're talking about maybe doing some interviews during the off season. So we'll see how that goes. And I was going to ask you guys about whether or not you want to do Hot Topics maybe once a month, just to keep on top of the topics during the off season.
I think that's a good idea, because otherwise that first one of the year, we have so many that have happened throughout the off. No, wait, time out. You're going to want to do one in December about the lawsuit when it starts. I don't want to do that. I changed my answer. Again, it's not something I enjoy talking about, but we got to do it. It's part of the media obligation. You got to fulfill the media obligation. Show up, even if it's to say I'm here so I don't get fined.
Like I would find anybody. Okay, so with that, do watch for more. We'll be doing our previews of the upcoming races out at Phoenix Raceway, which will include the ARCA West Series and their season finale. And then Taz and I will be doing our last fantasy report on Friday. And then we'll all be back here on Monday again for all the reviews and our last Hot Topic Sound Off, with maybe a periodic one or two over the off season. So everybody's ready to go to bed. So we'll look forward to seeing everybody on the other side.
We'll do it that way. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.